I am Zehranu Irfan Unal, and I will be your MC for today's event. I feel privileged to extend my warm greetings to all the guests of honors and the distinguished speakers and panels for today's event. I would also like to happily welcome all the attendees who are present today for the roundtable discussion on the topic of consumerism in post-pandemic era. We feel honored to have with us today an esteemed group of speakers who are going to share their inputs for today's event. Before we proceed with today's event, let us all begin with the recitation of Kitab Al-Fatiha. Ladies and gentlemen, to mark the beginning of the event, please allow me to humbly welcome the Rector of International Islamic University Malaysia, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato' Zulkifli Abdul Razak, to give his welcoming speech on Sejahtera in Consumerism. Please welcome.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a greeting of peace. Let me first of all welcome you to this roundtable on consumerism, and I would like particularly to welcome Professor Sendo Ayako, Vice President of Takushoku University, Japan. Indeed, we are very glad that they have honored us to be with us today to talk about your experience in consumerism as far as Japan is concerned. I also like to welcome my dear colleague, Dato' Anwar Faisal, who is a giant in consumerism. He used to be everywhere. He used to be the president of the International Consumer International, and also now I think will take on a new role in the Right Livelihood College, which is another setup that Anwar built on his own, linking people around the world on issues of consumerism and issues of public awareness, and also issues of, that relates to many things that all of us are concerned with. So I would like to thank Anwar. I know you are busy, Anwar. I hope everything else is well in Penang. Thank you very much. With these two giants, I think we can already begin this particular roundtable. But somehow or other, because I'm the rector, I'm always punished by having to give a speech somehow or other, one way or another. Anyway, it is my pleasure to invite all of you, and I'd like to thank the Kuliah Economics and Management Sciences for taking this initiative to talk about consumerism, which is an issue that has not been well talked about in this university. I would like to go back to the days of the late Uncle S.M. Idris, who is another giant as far as consumerism concerned. He passed away very recently. But before he passed away, I think we were able to talk to him how to bring consumerism back into the university. And I think after a long while, this is one of the initiatives that we are taking on, hoping that this link between CAP, Consumer Association of Penang, Consumer International, and the university can be formalized so that consumerism can be a course that will be taught to our students, and especially so now with this COVID pandemic that all of us are experiencing, which I personally feel that is important for us now to learn and to look at what consumerism is all about in the future. So this is a tribute in a way to Uncle S.M. Idris, and also another person who is a friend who also passed away recently, Mr. Martin Kaur. These two persons, I think we owe much to them in bringing consumerism to the level that all of us can be proud of, not only in Malaysia, but globally as such. So without further ado, I'm given about 20 minutes to talk about what we are trying to reconceptualize here, the word sejahtera in sustainable consumerism. Now, the word sejahtera, for the benefit of Professor Sendo, is almost similar to the Japanese word like kizuna and ikigai, except that kizuna and ikigai is very well used in Japan and everybody knows about it. Sejahtera is a word that has not been explored to the fullest, but it has the same potential like the word kizuna and ikigai, a kind of a value that the university would want to bring out to the community, because it is part and parcel of our value, our norms, and also our understanding of what this is all about. Except it has not been used, it has been not taught in school. But I thought this is a way to introduce this word sejahtera in the context of consumerism, so that we can have also our indigenous understanding of what these values are, and it becomes then naturally as part and parcel of the education system, of our lifestyle, and also of our standing of what the worldview is all about as far as consumerism is concerned. So if you permit me, I will run through just a couple of slides so that we can understand what this word means to us. I hope you can see these slides, Anwar and Professor Sendo. Uh, they are able to see this, I hope. Yeah. Okay. When I talk about consumerism, as I mentioned, we are trying to put this in the context of lifestyle. In other words, a kind of a way of life that is natural to us. Indigenously and traditionally, we have been, quote unquote, a consumer society in a very responsible and sustainable way. And because of this word is no longer featured in our life, we tend to lose our way as we go on and understand what consumerism is all about. Yeah. So consumerism, I think, has many connotation. One of the connotation is about an ideology of increasing consumption of goods, economically speaking. So all of us, I think, in our education system is trained to be an income earner, and more importantly, is trained to how to spend this money. And the way we spend this money sometimes do not have resemblance of what we mean as far as sustainability, or the way we understand what traditionally expenditure is all about. Yeah? To a certain extent, sometimes it can be an addiction. So shopping is one of the pastime that all of us do. The moment we have time, we'll go to the mall. There's many more malls coming up. Despite all the economic downturn that people talk about, there are still malls coming up. Despite the many things that we talk about, economic not doing well, people are spending their money left, right, and center. The COVID say that people stay home, but people still shop. They go online shopping. And in fact, online shopping, I think, is worse than in-person shopping, because you just need to click a button and then you get whatever you want. And sometimes you click this button without realizing it. And these are issues that I think we need to start to grapple with, particularly when we look at what's going to happen after the COVID pandemic, and what's going to happen to the younger generation now, who are being taught to do many things online without realizing what are the downsides of this online thing. Yeah. So I'm asking a question: can there be able a sustainable consumerism, or the word sejahtera, is this fit into this whole concept of consumerism? Yeah. So when we look at the Sustainable Development Goal talks about sustainable consumption and production, right? And this is perhaps one of the link that we can go into in trying to understand what consumerism is all about from the basic understanding of it. And under that goal, there are many sub goals. And I want to focus on the last one, which is education. This is what the university is all about. How do we educate people to understand what consumerism is all about? How can it be sustainable? How can we be responsible? And I think these are issues that has high time that we bring it forward. And I hope the Kulia will take this as part and parcel of developing the new consciousness as far as consumerism is all about. Yeah. Whatever it is, I think we understand, at least from my point of view, the world is no longer equitable. You can talk about economic, you can talk about ecology, you can talk about social environment, you can even talk about the geopolitical understanding. The world today is in chaotic state, right? Given the pandemic, it makes it even worse. And we do not know how to behave in a condition of this nature. The younger nation is grappling of how to understand this. How do you then correct this balance? I think that will be one of the role of people like us who are trying to correct this balance and make sure that life becomes meaningful again as we move on into the future, right? But it has been from my point of view, since I was a student, when I start to learn about this from the late Uncle Idris and also from Anwar himself, that the world has never been sustainable. Yeah, the question of consumption and overconsumption, and sometimes added to greed, makes somehow rather the world or the life becomes unsustainable. I think this picture just tells us exactly. If we talk about evolution, perhaps, yeah, we are evolving into another sort of a creature that are not able to sustain ourselves anymore. It's a very symbolic thing that some of you perhaps do not believe in evolution. That's fine, but at the end of the day, we are going to create a situation where we are not sustainable anymore. If consumption is not checked, if it's not sustainable, and if it's not done responsibly. That is a kind of future sort of view that I have if we go on living in this so-called unsustainable era. So we need to make something out of it. And the only way that I thought we can do this is perhaps to understand how does this come about. Yeah, I'm going to briefly run through, I think, about this whole idea of consumerism. This is where we are now. When we talk about the contemporary world, it's all about consumption, buying things, shopping, and all those things that I've mentioned to you before. Yeah. But little do we understand that these have some historical context. The historical context, perhaps I can start off with when we start to understand what the world is all about from a totally materialistic point of view, taking perhaps the days of the Renaissance of the 15th centuries. Yeah, where we have got under an enlightenment, scientific revolution, and finally led to what we call now the industrial revolution. In Malaysia, I'm not too sure in Japan. I think Japan talked about society 5.0. In Malaysia, we are still talking about industrial revolution 4.0, where the industrialization using computerization and all sorts of things becomes part and parcel of the issue that we're going to face as far as the nation is concerned. Now, with this industrial revolution, we begin to have ideas like overconsumption, mass production, and all those things that we have seen around today, right? And this is not, which is not new. You just need to go around and see what's happening. Perhaps this is a way of looking at it. Go around us, sorry, and you will see that kind of a. Yeah, you can see all those products around us, and all of us are quite familiar with them because they are all around us, no matter wherever we are or whatever we do. And this has something to do with the industrial revolution, as it were, that people are just turning things out for sale, one way or another, whether we realize it or not. And to me, university is also part of this. We're churning out people for whatever reasons, just to support the market and to make sure consumption is alive as far as this group of people is concerned. So these are the paradigms that I think we need to revisit, whether this is something is desirable for us. As the industrial revolution goes, products are being produced, we also pollute the earth at the same time. It is a picture before the EPA was implemented in the US, the kind of smog, the kind of pollution you see in cities like New York. Now, you may not see this, but certainly the world is also experiencing a kind of a toxic environment when you talk about climate change, global warming, and so on and so forth. These are all interrelated, I think, that many of us are not quite aware of it because of the habit of consumption or indeed overconsumption as such. Yeah, it's a nice graph to depict what happened from the first industrial revolution of the 1700 right now, maybe to 2020, to the fourth industrial revolution. All the graphs are going up, right? And we are going into what they call the Anthropocene age. And the Anthropocene age is created by us human beings because of our unchecked activities. So we can try and plot this. Yeah, we can try and plot this, how our economy is killing the earth. You can see all those bars coming out. CO2 consumption, the use of paper, the use of what you call fossil fuel, and so on and so forth. Of course, the GDP goes up at the same time. And most of us just look at the GP, good numbers as the GP goes up, but we do not understand or we do not realize that it also pollutes the earth and kills the earth at the same time. I think these are issues that we need to talk about. How do you stop this, if at all is possible to stop? Otherwise, how do we educate and try to minimize it from the education point of view. This, I think, has something to do with economics, and therefore I hope the Kuliah economics will look at this seriously. And this is where the rise of consumerism becomes important for us to understand. And yet, when we go into this, we'll see all these big products are actually being pocketed by some companies. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, all those names, they are just being quote-unquote monopolized by this group of people that will then eventually create a kind of a brand structure on us. So the younger generations, even with my generation, will buy things that are branded. And they think this is the best thing that they could afford. And it's also a status quo for them and a kind of a quote-unquote recognition of success. So if we talk about just apparels and clothing and so on and so forth, I just talk about the men folk. The women folk probably need 3 slides on this, but the men folk is enough, right? We need to have something which is branded. If it's not branded, then it is not, hip, and therefore people do not want to buy it. So we will then be trained, to buy certain brands, be A, B, C, D, and nothing that's not branded will not then be important for us. We become, whether directly or indirectly, a moving billboard. On your shirt, there is a brand, and you walk with that brand, very proud that you are actually advertising for somebody free of charge. Imagine you're carrying something as big as whatever brand name and walking around town, and you're not paid for it. You already paid for the things that you buy at a cutthroat price. Now you're advertising it free of charge for other people. And that's the kind of mindset that doesn't come to us. Everybody wants to show their Coach bag or their whatever watch, Even the Topi Haji, now there is a brand. There must be a kind of a brand. Your hijab has got a brand. Hijab was supposed to be modest and unnoticed. Now it becomes a brand. It stuck on your head. And these hijabs cost 70,000 ringgit to some people. So this whole idea of consumerism, at least from the Islamic point of view, again, has got something that we need to say or something to do as far as that is concerned. Yeah. So when we go back to this diagram, when we talk about this industrial revolution brought 2 things to us. One is what we call exploitation, that will lead finally to colonization, all right? And imperialism by just selling, quote unquote, the so-called brand names. It may not be a product now. It could be an ideology. It could be a way of life. It could be an idea, that is manufactured somewhere else and then imposed on you. Education is one of them. They give this education to us with the understanding that traditionally we've got our own way of educating things, understanding things. But no, it has to be done in a certain way, particularly from the colonial sort of idea of westernization or whatever you have. So much so, if you don't have a brand, then you are not, quote unquote, considered advanced or considered sort of successful because there is no brand attached to it. Essentially, it says there is no economic value to something which is unbranded. I think these are issues that I think we need to talk about. Yeah. So then we talk about this idea of exploitation, colonization, and imperialism in a way that is a kind of being imposed on you, what we call the hard power. People sometimes use this, using military might and all other things to impose things on you. And this is what I think most of the third world countries are experiencing at the moment in time. When people do not accept this, then we create another concept, what we call the soft power. The soft power do not use in military mights anymore, but what they use is they change things around. Yeah. Instead of armies or military coming in, they use another force called the enterprise. And this is where your supermarkets are. Yeah? And they sell all these goods that they have produced so that you become, quote unquote, the consumer in a very indirect way. What does it do to you? It creates another culture, a culture of shopping, a culture of buying what they produce, whether you need it or not, that's not a problem. But the whole idea of trying to colonize the mind still stays, right? And then it goes into education. Yeah, the education now, particularly when online education, that everything is now hooked in from wherever and whatever, and you have no control over that. And what kind of values being purported into education becomes an issue that all of us need to grapple with. Yeah, the government comes in. They talk about engagement, especially in Malaysia, the government will tell you what to teach and what to learn. Yeah, and you lose control over education, and then education becomes another product that we will talk about in terms of employment, employability, and all those things. Yeah, and then the digital world comes in. The digital world tells us that everything needs to be hooked up. Internet is one of those things, and I like this particular poster here. It says that on the internet, if anything is free, then you are actually the product. So people use Twitter, people use Facebook, all this media is free of charge because you are the product now. You become that moving billboard I was talking to you about. They tell you to collect all these lights and whatever it is, which is meaningless, but that becomes the rule of the game, actually. Yeah. Another saying here, something that is not paid for, then you actually are consuming it. You become the product. You will become the things that actually are publicizing, advertising it. Yeah. So at the point of juncture now, sorry if I run out of time, how do you untangle this? I think this is the issue that we need to talk about. How do you move ourselves from this network that we have been caught in as far as consumerism is concerned? Indirectly, sometimes we do not even realize it. Yeah. So when you talk about online education, this university is very mindful. What is online education is all about? Yeah. Do we have control over online education? How do you make sure that the quality, how do you make sure that the values in online education stays fixed at the same time? Yeah. So I will stop there with posing this question to you. And this is where the word sejahtera comes in. The word sejahtera talks about how do you balance life again? How do you bring this notion of kizuna and ikigai into our life? Using our own notion of what the Malaysian society is all about, indeed about the Islamic understanding of perspective of consumerism is all about. How do you put this in place so that we can begin to reconstruct our life, particularly post pandemic, that everything now seems to be, caught in its own web. How do we disentangle or unentangle ourselves in this particular notion? Yeah. So this 9:20, I've just exceeded by 2 minutes. I must apologize for that, but I hope this makes sense to you. And I'm very, very sure that Professor Sendo and Anwar would be able to add on to what I've said. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera.
Thank you, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Zulkifli Abdul Razak, for the warm welcoming speech. I will now hand over the floor to the Dean of Kuliah of Economics and Management Science, Professor Dr. Hasanuddin Abdul Aziz, to proceed the session as the moderator for the keynote speaker.
Okay.
Please welcome.
Thank you, Sister MC, Prof. Rector, invited keynote speakers, Assalamualaikum, and other panelists, and all those on Zoom. Dah berapa ratus lah? 100 already. Okay. Including from Japan, a few of them are on Zoom. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all of you. Prof. Rector has already comprehensively covered the intention of this roundtable discussion. So I just have to come up with a statement. Okay, knowingly or unknowingly, we are willing slaves to an artificial culture to consume, victims of modern advertising industry, which turn consumption into a necessity. So more and more economic growth, Prof. Rector also have mentioned more details. More and more economic growth has more catastrophic effects in both our personal well-being and shared environment at the expense of human values and life. With that, I think Prof. Rector's presentation in the infographic manner have clearly put the discussion for today in the right perspective. So without further ado, I will introduce the keynote speakers. Prof. Sendu Ayoko is the Vice President of Takoshuku University, Professor, Faculty of Commerce at the University, Director, International Exchange and Foreign Student Center of the University, member of the National Public Service Ethics Board in National Personnel Authority, Chairman of the Technology Evaluation Committee for a set of research projects to support initiative for sustainable productivity improvement in nursing care fields, President of Japan Society for Business Ethics, Chairman of the Board of Directors Association of Certified Business Ethics Experts, Japan. And she holds a doctorate from Waseda University. And her publications and academic articles revolve around finance and economy for society, Japanese and corporate social responsibility, competencies as member of society and flow experience, creation of social innovation by social enterprise. So with that introduction, I invite Prof. Sendo Ayoko to present her presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you see the slide of mine? Okay, thank you very much. It's very honored to participate in this roundtable. Thank you very much. I'm Ayako Sendo from Takushoku University. I want to firstly I want to introduce Takushoku University a little bit. Takushoku University begins life as a Taiwan Association School, founded by its first chancellor Duke Katsura Taro in 1900. And at present, we have 5 undergraduate faculties and 6 graduate schools. In Faculty of Engineering and Graduate School of Engineering, we have the students from Malaysia, of the Malaysia, Japan Higher Education Program, MJHEP. This year, we have 9 students as 4th year students. There are 57 students in total in the first from the 1st to 7th year of the program. This year, in total, 25 students from Malaysia, including the students of MJHEP. Also, we have 13 research institutes. Sharia Research Institute studies aspects of the Islamic world through research of Sharia. The name of director is Professor Nobuo Mori. And also, we have junior college in Hokkaido, in the northern part of Japan, high school, and Japanese language school. About the relationship between International Islamic University Malaysia and Takushoku University. In 1988, we signed an academic exchange agreement. And then in 2005, the president and his wife of IIM visited Takushoku University. And then in 2017, a delegation of representatives of the Dormitory Community Association visited Takushoku University. And this year, faculty and students of IIM visited Takushoku University and interacted with faculty and students of Takushoku University. Now, I would like to move to the presentation about ethical consumption in Japan. Actually, this sustainability is a very popular word in Japan right now, especially business world. In business world, many efforts and activities have done for Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). Then, how can we increase the sustainability of the society?
Professor Sendo, you don't mind if I interrupt? Can you expand your slides? It's too small for us to see.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put it on show.
Oh. No. Small? Okay.
You make it bigger, expand it.
How can I? Let's back to, sorry.
That's
Is
good.
this
Thank
okay?
you very much. Yes, yes, very much.
Okay. But all right. Sorry. How can we increase the sustainability of the society? To increase social sustainability, the consideration to environment and society throughout companies' supply chain are essential. If company can change, maybe society will change. So what is the driving power for changing company? Maybe we can say consumers and investors are has the power through ethical consumption and ESG investment and so on. Then I would like to talk about ethical consumption in Japan. Since 2015, SDGs has been promoted in Japan by the government, companies, NPOs, schools, and individuals. It rapidly permeated Japanese society. According to Sustainable Development Report 2020, Japan is ranked 17th out of 166 countries. But about the goal 12, it's responsible consumption and production. This is orange. Orange means significant challenges remain. So maybe we need more effort for this part. What is considered to be effective in achieving this goal is ethical consumption, I think. Then, according to Consumer Affairs Agency, they did some survey about the ethical consumption in Japan. According to that, ethical consumption in Japan is not yet widespread, but it has been gaining attention in recent years. In addition, more than 80% of consumers agree with environmental and socially conscious shopping. even if they do not know the term ethical consumption. And why is ethical consumption gaining attention in Japan? I think the reason is these three items. The first one is ethical Olympics. For the London 2012 Olympics and Paralympic Games, the organizing committee obtained the international standard for sustainable events, ISO 20121. As an environmentally advanced country, Japan wants to adopt ethical procurement practices in preparation for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Also, Japan wants to contribute to the promotion of the ethical products and services in Japan. The reason number two, supportive consumption after the earthquake. In 2011, after the Great East Japan earthquake, supportive consumption such as purchasing and goods and service in the affected area and traveling to the affected areas also spread across the country as part of the ethical consumption. Number three, I think the people's value and ethics has changed, especially young people through social networking sites are becoming more and more interested in ethical consumption. About the law in Japan. In 1968, the Consumer Basic Act was enacted. And then in 2004, the Consumer Basic Law Act was amended to help consumers become more independent. This law defines consumer rights, business owner responsibilities, and the responsibilities of government agencies. And then in 2012, Act on Promotion of Consumer Education was enacted to encourage to create a society where consumers' activity engage in ethical consumption, which is called consumer civil society. By stage, from infancy to old age, consumers are presented with the powers they should acquire. In summary, it is important not only for individual consumers to be self-reliant, but also for them to be aware of their social responsibility to act as members of society and to be able to participate in the formation of the consumer civil society and to conduct consumer education that enable them to do so. About the education, in the ethical education, they teach shopping is bought with money. That means that consumer must learn the social meaning of shopping. Consumer need to know consumer has a right to choose and guarantees the right to freely choose goods and service. Shopping is a vote for businesses involved in the production and the sales of their goods. Since consumer spending amount of the for about 60% of GDP, what consumer choose to do has a significant impact on society. And that is, consumer behavior will change society. Means consumer have a responsibility. Individuals' consumption choices have a public nature and may also lead to external diseconomies. In addition, a consumer's choice not to buy can lead to corporate bankruptcy and improvement efforts. And purchase, what is the conditions for ethical consumption? Purchasing behavior is based on the ethics of the individual consumer. So these for the following four conditions are very important. One is consumers get enough information and have the ability to analyze it. Number two, consumers have a sense of ethics on which to base their decisions. Number three, the market is supplied with the goods and services that consumer demand. Number four, consumers have the economic power to buy the goods and service they want to buy. And in relation with number one condition, we can say there is a lot of hype and misrepresentation by companies and the desire of consumers to be influenced by them. That means supply creates demand. So we need business ethics here. Also, if you want to buy products that are environmentally and human rights conscious, which ethical consumption aims to be, you need to pay attention to the process of producing the goods, but it is difficult for the consumer to know. In relation with the condition two, maybe a consumer have to have virtue. A virtue, number one virtue is the private aspect of the virtue. Maybe this is being recognized. For example, making the garbage as small as possible and so on. But number two, the public aspect of virtue is overlooked. People don't realize that consumer behavior has a public character that affects the well-being of other human beings. For example, consumption behavior such as masks and disinfectants in Japan in the COVID-19 crisis. Some people bought them up or resold them at a high price. And there is a need to foster social and ethical awareness. Some people say ESD is very important. This is education for sustainable development. In this knowledge, the people need imagination and empathy for others. For example, concern for the people who produce the goods we consume on the other side of the world. and also need to think about the meat we eat. There is still little interest in animal welfare in Japan, but we can find the description about need of animal welfare in consumer in affair agency final report of the ethical consumption study group. In relation with number 3 and 4, we can say consumer can only achieve ethical consumption by choosing from the goods and services supplied by companies. So here we need business ethics, but without consumer demand, there can be no production of ethical goods. Also, environmental and human rights, etc. goods are more costly. Price greatly influences consumer buying behavior. Then, what are the values and ethics of Japanese companies? This is the traditional Japanese corporate value and business ethics. Sampo Yoshi. Sampo Yoshi is a kind of a very traditional Japanese corporate philosophy. Actually, Omi merchant created this philosophy. In Japanese, Yoshi means good, and Sampo means 3 sides. And these 3 sides consist of the seller and the buyer and society. Sampo Yoshi is therefore good for the seller, good for the buyer, and also good for society. This is Omi merchant. Omi is here next to Kyoto. Now, at present, we call here Shiga Prefecture. In Edo era, they call this Omi. The Omi merchant the business is wholesaling business heading across the country, carrying a balance bar like this. And now this business developed to the big trading company such as Itochu Corporation, Marubeni Corporation in Japan now. And Obi merchant, many Obi merchants believe in Jodo Shinshu. Jodo Shinshu is one of the sects of Buddhism, taught that devoting oneself to the business is the right thing to do. Therefore, religious and economic ethics can be matched there. Okay. And this Omi merchant was active from the late Muromachi period to the Meiji period and very successful in Edo period. The motto of the Omi merchant was Sampo Yoshi. The business provide very honest business to customers. So customer can satisfied with shopping. Then customer trust business. And also the business company merchant give social contribution activities to the society communities. So the society and the communities give trust to business. This is the Sampoyoshi. This Japanese traditional multi-dimensional stakeholder-oriented management is one of the origin of CSR in Japan. The Omi merchant believed that giving back profits to society through charitable donations was their responsibility and necessary for the long-term business development. They recognized that profits are generated by trust based on the relationships built for the long term. Traditional Japanese management by the Omi merchants and others was based on the Sampo-yoshi business ethics and maintained balance between economic rationality and social rationality. After the collapse of the bubble economy in the early 1990s, Japanese industry began to emphasize Western-style corporate management method based on the short-time perspective. Nevertheless, the trend of CSR and SDGs, as well as the change in value due to the COVID-19 disaster, has changed the value of Japanese companies and stakeholders, I think. And some people propose this new type of Japanese style Sampo-yoshi management. This is management based on multi-dimensional stakeholders, but it's not 3, it's 8. So we call this Happo Yoshi. Yoshi means good. Happo means 8 sides. And management to grow in the long term while creating shared value, CSV by Michael Porter with multi-dimensional stakeholders. And the characteristics of this model is these items. The first one is trust-based management and focus on long-term relationships. And then creating benefits for both parties instead of competing for profit. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Prof. Sandhu, for the very comprehensive and insight into the responsible consumption in Japan. And also we will enhance our relationship. Is happy to note that we have an agreement established in 1988 in the old campus, and we will enhance and try to get our students to more student exchange and staff exchange to your university in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I will now invite the Dato Anwar, and later I will open it up for question and answer for both the keynote speakers. Let me introduce Dato Anwar Fadal. Prof. Rector also have mentioned. Interesting enough, the CV is very contemporary. Trained in economics and education, Anwar Fazal is a catalyst, a multiplier, and accelerator of creative ideas and movements with a passion for pioneering local and global citizens networks on public interest issues affecting peace, peace with oneself, peace with others, and peace with the environment. He is founder and key player in over a dozen local and global citizen networks. He founded the Consumer Association of Penang in 1969, and served as president of the International Organization of Consumers Union, based in Netherlands from 1978 to 1984. He also served as chairman of the International Environmental Liaison Center, based in Kenya in 1987 to 1988. For his work, Anwar has received the Right Livelihood Award, popularly known as the Alternative Nobel Prize, at the UNEP Global 500 Honors. Anwar is currently director of the Right Livelihood College, an innovative platform begun in 2009 that brings together some 180 winners of the Right Livelihood Award, popularly known as Alternative Nobel Prize, from 80 countries into a light, participatory, pioneering, and unique worldwide university change makers collaboration. The global secretariat of the college is at the University of Bonn, Germany, with campuses based at leading universities in Sweden, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Chile, Argentina, North America, Thailand, and India. Dato' Anwar is also serving as chairman, Think City, and vice chairman of Sahabat Alam Malaysia, SAM for, okay. I think normally the CV read, this is very different, very, very in line with what an activist is all about. So without any further ado, I invite Dato' Anwar to present his presentation.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the very kind introduction. Assalamu alaikum to every one of you. Very good morning. Thank you so much, Tan Sri Zul, for inviting me to join this particular program. I have a great admiration for IIUM and what you are doing there at the moment. I worked very closely with you at USM, and you transformed it into a university in a garden. You transformed it into a university where the values of Sejahtera became very central to people's consciousness and mind. And it has inspired lots of people. And one of the very important principles that I like to share always is what I call the power of success. Because the world is full sometimes of depression, is full of people who are feeling that nothing can be done, full of people who just give up and allow then the monsters, you can say, to continue exploiting us. What Tan Sri Zul showed us in his slides. We had a situation where you had things like the military, industrial, financial complex that is running, where war is a big business. Industrialization was just for making money, and actually destroyed the culture of life. And then the financial complexes, where banking became totally a new different thing, where money itself became a commodity to buy and sell. And you have this whole culture of stock exchanges and money laundering and treasure islands, where people avoid paying tax where they should be paying, and hiding them in these what are called treasure islands, which were exposed with the Panama Papers, and a whole list of countries and people and corporations were shown how they hide wealth that should actually have been shared with the people, but use it again then to make more money through manipulation of financial systems of the world. So a term called not just gangsters, but banksters was even coined at one time, because the mindset of people who are involved in the financial businesses became of that kind, where it's making money out of money, in that, which when we moved away even from the simple cycle of producing and sharing in that. We have also seen the what we 30 years, 40 years ago used to call coco-colonialism, coco-colonialism of how a product, just a mindset took over the world, and it together with fast foods, people are talking now of fast food nations, the whole world transformed into eating habits that were actually destructive. They were actually destructive, and we have seen amazing examples of what these destructive foods are actually doing to people. One of the big indicators is obesity. It's an amazing indicator. Tan Sri Zul showed it in one of his beautiful slides itself. The world is already 30% obese. Malaysia is 45% obese. You can see, there's some things that we are doing that are really shocking. And you know what obesity leads to? It leads to a whole range of health problems. But very often, who cares? Because unhealthiness and illness is a big business too. And it creates, money for lots of people, hospitals and, pharmaceuticals and medicine. So whole ill-healthy business, begins to operate in the world. And it's so shocking that industries are developing on things that we create that are truly against our humanity and our lives. There was a very wonderful person who nearly a century ago studied obesity. And he studied obesity and he found what was it that was causing this particular problem. And he found it was in fact the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution changed the face of the West. What led it to? It led to structured employment where you worked for certain hours. So you rushed to work, you ate quickly, and then you sat still and just did your routines. And in there, the introduction of machines. Then you rush to have a quick lunch. And then you come back after also doing that. So this whole sedentary life was going. And at the same time, parallelly, because of the industrialists, the kind of food that was being developed was again industrialized, and you began to lose all the natural strength of this. And because of these two habits, we lost some cultures of the right kind of food and also munching. That is to chew your food until it disappears in your mouth. We became, as a world, the swallowing society. We just grab, and of course, when you swallow, the food doesn't get to the body, benefiting the body. It takes a long time, and then it accumulates in your stomach for a long time. And then it doesn't impact on the removal of hunger. Because it doesn't impact on the removal of hunger, you eat more because the things that you ate are just stuck in your stomach. They're not giving you. But if you chew and you munch the food until it disappears in your mouth, it's transformational because the food just goes straight and reaches the rest of your body, and you don't have to eat more at all. And Fletcherism is the name given to this whole movement that was nearly 100 years ago. Can you imagine that? 100 years ago. And Charlie Chaplin and Rockefeller followed these diets because they found, my God, I mean, we are destroying ourselves at that time. But along the way, we lost it. Fletcher himself, he wrote a wonderful book, which was published in 2013. And the term Fletcherism, you can Google it. It's actually a very interesting history of such a simple thing that we begin our own lives with, is eating properly. So we had this huge problem that I think is one of the very simple indicators of what is wrong with society. And it's shocking because it's impacting hugely the world. It's impacting hugely to Malaysia also particularly. The second very simple indicator that over the years that we found, and also which is very simple, how we are managing the earth. And there is a group that has developed indicator called the overshoot indicator. That is, how much is humanity taking away from the earth? Yeah, and based on they have various criteria they measure. The world has overshot. It's overshot, and it's overshot 1.6 times already now. This last year, yeah? 1.6 times. That means we are eating and using the resources and all the capacities that we have 1.6 times more than actually we need to in order to keep the balance and harmony. And interestingly, Malaysia, the study that was done, we are 2.2. That means we are overshot by 2.2 of the planet elements. That means we are eating 2.2 times more using and the way we are structured. And that's also shocking. So you can see for us, we are in a situation that we not only face the sort of emergency crisis globally, we have the financial crisis globally. We have things that are impacting on us and also impacting on our survival very, very clearly. And I think these shocking elements should be a wake-up call, and a wake-up call that needs us to transform how we are teaching, how we are behaving, and how our own societies should be organized. And so the consumer movement, we moved away from the value of money, value for money, became value for society, value for humanity, value for Mother Earth. And these became a kind of triangle, which also very interestingly was shown in how a number of the Japanese traditions, they began to take this triangle together and make it in a balanced and harmonious way. So what do we do? What do we do? And for many of us we decide to throw away pessimism and optimism as words. Yeah? We talk about possibilism. That is, what can we do? What can we do? What are the things that we need to do? And we are finding that actually all over the world, there are great success stories, and great success stories that need to be shared of goodness, of projects, of behaviors that unfortunately, because these are not shared, these are not celebrated, these are not becoming items in the curriculum of institutions that are trapped in the teaching of the past, of theories and very often completely irrelevant things in relation to where we are going, and the institutions also become themselves problems for the future, that they themselves need to be rethinking how they are managed and organized. So what to become a possibilist, that is, you have people who are PhDs. We need also people who are what I call BSCs, and people who are GTDs, after your name, PhD, BSc, and GTD. BSc is blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah? That means going to the ground, understanding exactly what is happening, making up the decision also that I'm just not only a scholar, I want to make a difference. I want to be part of the action that is necessary. And that mindset will again have to be built into all our teaching. The GTD is because sometimes you have all the best knowledge, then you have all the best passion, but you don't know how to get things done. GTD, get things done. And you need to also understand then the systems of management and organization where you can actually transform and be what I would call change makers. And I love the term that Tan Sri used, Sujatra, because I think if there are some very simple words that we have globally, for Malaysia, that would be a fantastic word to use that I think encapsulates and captures all these very, very special things that we are concerned about. For us, in our work in the consumer movement, in the Right Livelihood Award system, we have also taken up a word called right livelihood. And we had a logo also that it has the yin and yang, which is a scientific symbol. People always think it's a nice decoration saying, black and white, men and women. Actually, it's a scientific symbol of the shadow made by a pole by the sun on the earth. And over 12 months, the shadow that is made makes that S. And the idea for this symbol, then they put a circle around it, is to show the links between the heavens and the earth. And to show that the synchronization importance, the importance between balance and harmony, checks, and balances that we need in life. It's a very, very powerful symbol. And then we use another symbol, which is the lotus flower. The lotus flower grows out of the dirtiest water you can think, and yet it comes out so beautiful, its colors and its perfume, despite all that. It shows you how in life we need these concepts of understanding the links between the heavens and the earth, and also how the worst places that we go to, we can actually make the change and we can make a difference. And there are people who are doing it and sprouting out great ideas and actions. And there was somebody, a scientist, who even studied how the lotus keeps itself clean, and is now known as the Lotus Effect. And he created a chemical that you can paste on the wall, and it will take all the dirt out. Very fascinating. And this is the whole movement of biomimicry, of trying to learn the rich resources that are in nature itself, and how nature itself does amazing things that we all forget. And very often the last thing that we used to study is to actually learn from nature. We have become specialists in destroying nature, which is amazing tragedy. And the Biomimicry Institute is a very fascinating place that regularly gets the mindset to be thought of and to begin to learn about our, you can say, fellow occupants of Mother Earth in a way that they too become our scholars So for us then to begin to do things is becoming very necessary. And I would like to share, for example, a source book that we have done, and it's called The Right Livelihood Way. The Right Livelihood Way, and it contains, we can say, basic ideas and people who are doing these kinds of successes. And one of my suggestions is that we might collaborate in doing a source book at IIUM called the Sujatra Way, which takes up the whole concept, and again make it into a document that can be actually a source for learning about getting things done that makes a better world. So it becomes a resource where you celebrate the power of success, you celebrate people who are making the changes, you celebrate inventions and ideas that are actually so beautifully natural and not destructive, as we have seen happening at the current world today. One of the saddest things, for example, at the current moment is when we see the inequity between the rich and the poor. Yeah? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the most shocking things very often is also the way in which, if you want an indicator, is housing. Yeah? We have large amounts of expensive housing vacant, which are built with materials using so much energy, which continue to be vacant, and lights and electricity and roads and everything else constructed for them. And then we find the bottom 50 and their public housing is inadequate, is actually like concentration camps, so poorly maintained. And if you just look at these two things in society, again, just like obesity, we see the shocking way in which we are actually dealing with issues in terms of even living. And if people grow up in these kinds of environment, they grow up also with mental issues, they grow up with anger, they grow up with resentment, they grow up with all kinds of ways in which we create problems for the future. There are quite a lot of things, but one of the things that I also would like to suggest, and to me this is becoming more and more important, and I think our colleague from Japan shared this with us, and that is actually beginning with yourself. Yeah? Yeah. And I have been talking a little bit of 7 chakras of good living, that in a way we want to make ourselves better. And these 7 chakras are very simple. We must go back to learning about breathing, The world is forgetting about breathing. We are no longer doing deep breathing and, exercises in clean air and really sending the oxygen to our body and to our brains. We now are breathing only very little. Our lungs are used so little. Instead, we are poisoning the lungs. If you look at all the studies that have done, all the rubbish that is accumulating because we allow the pollution. So breathing can be used as a very important model for actually rejuvenating yourself. And many traditional cultures, whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, and many things in different cultures, talk to us about breathing. And we miss that. We have sort of destroyed that simplicity that is so powerful to our health. The second I talked about already, munching. Very simple. I mean, to become that culture of munching and eating will be done. The third is simple, walking. Yeah, we were a walking world, and then we're slowly losing that, and the whole culture of making that and designing our buildings and so on for that. Like Putrajaya, for example, was a magnificent example of totally unfriendly. Yeah. Place. It's a place where even if you want to go from one building to another building, you actually have to begin to use a car to move around. When actually a design of a building could have been such that it could have been designed in a way in which you have multiple places that you can walk to each other. You have gardens built in different places, and walking from one ministry to another, and you can have the whole beautiful urban designs that have been done for cities. Instead, we make kinds of designs that looked pretty. Got trees growing, but the way it was engulfed with highways and separateness and stuff, we didn't create a city of the future. We created a city that's actually part of the model of how we are destroying with the place. So even now, designs of new kinds of buildings are being rethought of all over the world. How green buildings, green spaces are being involved. The fourth thing is smiling and laughter. We forget about the simple things, So much so now there is the whole global movement of laughter clubs. And they really do. The way it moves up your body, and the way a smile, when you look at someone who's smiling, it makes you also want to smile, and a whole culture of now it's being transformed into the happiness movement, where begin now to even develop all kinds of index and indicators where the value of life becomes happiness. And some days even coin the word that we must move away from capitalism and go into happitalism. Happitalism, and there's the World Happiness Day, there's a World Happiness Index. We have countries that have adopted happiness as their main philosophy also. So simple things like this, smiling. And the fifth one is the culture of listening, because very often even listening is just like, hearing. But actually you take the word, Chinese word for listen is ting, ting, and it consists of 3 characters. The ear, the eye, and the heart. So listening is 3-dimensional. It's not like hearing. You see, look, and feel them with your heart about this. So the whole listening culture must also become something that becomes right from the beginning national. The sixth thing is the whole culture of lifelong learning. Lifelong learning, and that is people think only of those structured systems when you are learning, and then after that you just go on and do something else. How to make the idea that you are constantly learning, and people do that where hobbies and other things that used to be quite common also become learning systems, and you can have a whole range of things by which you actually grow and learn and do. What I like to take from the Sufi saying, you make the you want to learn, you make the whole world your university. You want to grow, you make the whole world your garden. Whole world the garden, and then you grow up in a different kind of mindset. And the seventh, the last thing in terms of these 7 chakras of good living is empathy. How do we build a culture of where we are always caring about the other person? The principle about feeling about other people, about humanity, and about Mother Earth also, whom you also create, and think of as a human being, as a human living organism, and treating other people like you like to be treated. And I think these sort of 7 chakras are kind of values on which we can build up a whole new behavioral mindset that will create the new consumer, the consumer with a conscience, the consumer with a heart, you call the consumer that is ethical, the consumer which is ecological. And there are huge models for this kind of things. I have some what I call 21 projects of hope for the 21st century. And I've shared some of them with you. Just now, the Simplicity Institute, the Slow Food Movement, the Happiness Movement, a magazine called Yes, the Journal for Positive Futures, the Story of Stuff, where beautiful animated things are designed to show how water or, rubbish and all the things are treated, and that series of beautiful animations should become a standard thing that every single student should be watching to learn about this. Buy Nothing Day, the Earth Charter, the Biomimicry Institute I mentioned, an ombudsman for future generations, distance thinking. And I'm so glad that IUM has actually a UNESCO chair for future studies. I mean, it's a really remarkable thing, because distance thinking is so essential, and our plans for making sure the younger generations are involved, and they want to get an ombudsman for this. Making ecocide, which is what's happening to the global earth, a crime movement, the Schumacher College, which is a very interesting capacity building of the kind that we want to see. There are UNESCO's culture of movement. They have 99 ways to make peace with 6 different categories, which make a wonderful background the global ethic, where we learn from world religions about universal values and peace. The United Nations Days of Action. And one of the things I would also like to suggest is to make all those United Nations Days, United Nations Day, World Happiness Day, World Mother Earth Day, World Human Rights Day, World Solidarity with Migrants Day. Tomorrow is Anti-Corruption Day, World Corruption Day. Then we have Human Rights Day coming after that, and Migrants one coming, I think, on the 18th. Incidentally, both Human Rights Day and Migrants Day were actually founded out of Malaysia, as part of the movement of campaigning that we did, because we were forgetting that the whole world is a nation of immigrants. We move, and you look at history, and looking at the Quran, also the wonderful saying, "Tread lightly on earth." Tread lightly on earth. It's a surah in the Quran, and a wonderful title of a book. That is an amazing book, which I have to send to Tan Sri for quite some time already, with taking religions and nature and looking at the future of how we can take inspiration from our spiritual values. So these are some of the things, and I think for getting things done, having a program where every student at IIUM will have to go through a program, an orientation program that takes things like the Sustainable Development Goals, get them oriented to it, and make every one of them during that period of the state agree to become a champion of one of the goals, and to do a project that is linked up to one of the goals. And that becomes part of their mindset at the university itself, that during the period there they have to become a champion of one of the goals and do this particular project. You can have them taking on, like I said, projects related to days of action, many activities. There are huge activities, and I think if this particular book, which I will send a copy and a link to everyone, we can look and examine this as one of the possibilities that every student will be given an e-version, and with the updated and the way in which it can be related to many of the discussions that we have here. Then we can have a tool that can help us to make a better world, a world that is more sustainable, that is fair, that is just. So thank you so much, Tan Sri, for having me here. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to share my feelings, my thoughts, and my enthusiasm. Although I'm going to be celebrating my 80 years, I said, well, I'm thinking of the next 80 years, and I've got lots of more work to do, which I'm going to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato', for the very informative presentation. I think Dato' has presented how greed has disrupted our way of life, our way of good life, how we should go back to the right livelihood. And we have got our rapporteurs all documenting all the presentation. And for sure, Dato', we will follow up with you to look into all the areas which you have presented. And it is a very exciting projects which we like to collaborate, inshallah, in the future. So with that, I think I will open Q&A for the keynote speakers. Due to the time constraint, I will restrict the question. And anybody from the chat, is there any question from the chat? Who is controlling the chat? Chat, okay.
Yes, there's a question from Dr. Suhaimi, right? Who is here. Dr. Suhaimi, you want to voice your question?
Okay, you can ask the question.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to our panelists. First, I have a question for Tan Sri. Tan Sri, what is the best attitude to be sejahtera person, consumers and producers when we are in the red ocean full with irresponsible people, producers that seducing us, enticing us, threatening us our life? Number one. Number two, Tan Sri, how to tell our lawmakers, policymakers, rulers to be sejahtera and show us role model to be sejahtera. Next question for Professor Ayoko Sendo. how could we combine Sejahtera with Sampo Yoshi into education for responsible consumers and producers? And for Datuk Anwar, how to sustain in educating the public to be ethical consumers and producers so that everybody will be in Sejahtera. I think you already in the consumerism advocacy for many years. I think you already face a lot of challenges. How can you sustain, and persistent with all the challenges until you are now 80 years old and inshallah to be continue another 80 years to bring Sejahtera to the world. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I'm going to be very quick. I think the answers are all given by Professor Sendo and also Dato' Anwar. For example, if you talk about, I like this word, you talked about trust-based management. It's a value-based management rather than the kind of management that we are doing now that only talk about materialistic things and the short terms that you talked about. So I think these are things that are already there. But because we are now drifting into an ocean that we do not know where to go, this university should be able to sort out what is important to this university that is not relevant to other universities, perhaps in the context that we are having now. So I think this university should be able to take the leadership. Anwar 7 Chakra, for example. You may not want to word the word chakra because it doesn't sound Islamic to you, but the 7 principles that Anwar brought in is exactly what we want. But you are not, I will challenge this kuliah, you don't have the courage to move away from the so-called quote-unquote mainstream that was given to you by somebody else, although it doesn't belong to us. I think the courage of this university is to take the path that is true to us and is true to the human values. And I think Professor Sando makes a very good example of this bar that we carry. We have got nasi kanda. Nasi kanda is about the bar. But look at our nasi kanda, what happened to nasi kanda now? It's almost like quote-unquote treated with no respect at all. Because the value of nasi kanda has gone down. It is not quote-unquote branded. If for example, if what do you call, Starbucks sells nasi kanda tomorrow, everybody will flock back to Starbucks. We don't have the passion to make nasi kanda that kind of an equivalent. We've lost it. And we've lost our morals in a sense. So I think you asked me, Swami, your question is very relevant. How do you bring this back? And through education, I think we should be able to bring back, because we are training new minds. We are training new perspective. We're giving new courage to move forward the way that the 2 keynote speakers has shown. I am ready to support you, but you must make the move. Otherwise, I will not help you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Thanks, Prof. Prof. Sendo. Did you get that question? Tak dengar. Unmute.
You need to unmute yourself, Prof.
Unmute.
Sorry. The first question was on the chat. How could we combine, say, the profit with some Yoshi into education for responsible consumers and products? Is that so?
Yes.
Okay. I think in the education for the customer, the people have to teach the value of evaluating the activities and decision making based on the business ethics, like the corporate philosophy, such as Sampo Yoshi and so on.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Dato' Anwar.
Education is very central. And what is interesting is that the earliest books on civics that were done immediately after independence were quite amazing in terms of how they taught us about participatory democracy, how they taught about even caring for the environment, because they took it from the point of view how rubbish is managed, how to keep our water clean, and there were basic, simple values and so on. But along the way, we lost it all, and all those things were no longer important, and we got trapped completely. So there needs to be a new kind of thinking, and advocacy work in terms of making change, in terms of policy and acceptance. We have a whole lot of books, and we have 50 over years of experience of how we want to do it. If you have a very clear campaign, and to organize a campaign, like if it's a Sejahtera campaign, you can actually have the different elements about this. And you have to look at the top, and then you have to look at the bottom, and you have to get both the sky and earth together in some kind of cooperative movement. One of the things we did, for example, to shock policy leaders was one time to do a test, and this was the list of chemicals that are in your body that were external chemicals, and this system was invented. We did it just to shock and awe people, and it's amazing how many people suddenly felt, my God, my body is full of poisons, because they had this little scientific study done by a group of people who had volunteered, business executives, politicians, and it was so shocking that when we moved forward to have an international regulation for preventing toxic substances into the environment and into the body, can you imagine the United Nations as a whole passed a law, with regard to trying to control these kinds of toxic substances and so on. I mean, it was amazing that you can actually take it so far, but you needed that kind of very often shocking evidence. And I think our politicians, policymakers, also need that kind of education. People are talking about the new Green Deal. We have actually a lot of good documents, and we have a lot of good people who are in the Ministry of Environment. But what happened in 1991, when Vision 2020 was organized, was celebrated, and if you look at the Vision 2020, it has nine things in Vision 20. And you know what was, it was called Vision 2020, but it had a blind spot. None of the nine mentioned the word environment at all. So it was interesting that when we made this great leap in Malaysia towards industrialization, our vision had lost that particular character, and nothing in that. And I made a comment on it to Tuan Mahathir, when it was there, he just laughed it off, a little bit, said, no, that one is, we have to, yeah, we will deal with it. But it was interesting that our Vision 2020, our core thing that drove us, actually has ended in disaster. Like, the fact that the year 2020, we have come across this. But one of the beautiful things that has happened, if you take the first weeks and so on, a lot of people began to celebrate. Clean air, clean water, the birds and everything were coming out. And suddenly they said, my God, all those factories that were polluting, they've stopped work. And we got it. So all the dangers were again shown. And a great opportunity for us to again organize campaigns to shock the government and say, look, do you want to revert back to that? So our advocacy work that is available, our education system, again, that if we have, we have a model school in Penang where all the students have created urban farms, and they are creating a food sustainability program for their own students in the whole school. Actually, every school that we have in this country can become an urban garden. Every school in our country can become a place with solar heating, water harvesting, where you live in a garden of environment. And then we start a school movement that will be doing those kinds of building. And it's even cheaper and better for the future. But maybe people will not make money, from construction. And we move towards those and start one model and then use and base the story of success to go. And there are success stories all over. That's why, to me, knowing all the stories of success everywhere, showing them to people and saying, look, don't tell me it cannot be done. People are already doing it elsewhere. Yeah. So that kind of spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'. So with that, for the take, Tan Sri has spoken a lot on Sejahtera, with Sanpo Yushi, Hapo Yushi, and Dato' Anwar's right livelihood, and so on and so forth. I think we can take up the challenge which the Tan Sri has posed to the department and the Kuliah, not to be mere passengers and just blindly adopt the mainstream, to be in the driver's seat and to lead the way. Inshallah, with that, I conclude the keynote speakers. I thank all of them for their precious time, for their contribution, and for their presentation. Let us give them a round of applause. With that, I hand this over to Sister MC.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hasanuddin Abdul Aziz, our moderator for the keynote session. For the next agenda, I will now cordially invite Professor Dr. Zarina Huan Nasir, the moderator for the panel discussion, to proceed with the panel session.
Thank you to the MC.
Thank you, Professor Sendo. Thank you, Anwar. We hope to see you again, inshallah.
Right. We move next to the session with our three panelists who are all in the Senate Hall, right? I would like to introduce the first panelist, Prof. Dato' Dr. Inayah Yaakob. She enrolled into an executive program of Leaders in Education, Innovation and Strategy for the Future of Higher Education at the Cambridge Judge Business University of Cambridge in 2009. She holds a double degree in Bachelor of Sharia Law Honours and Bachelor of Law Honours from IIUM. Her LLM Master of Comparative Civil and Banking Law was from Faculty of Law, the University of Bristol, United Kingdom. She received a PhD in Law from Faculty of Law, the University of Manchester, which she successfully completed in 2.5 years. Professor Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob is the CEO of College Professional Baitul Mal, wholly owned by the Federal Territory Islamic Religious Council of Malaysia. The appointment was endorsed by His Majesty of the King on 8th April 2019. She is currently an independent non-executive director, Board of Amanah Raya Berhad. She serves as a member of the Board of Sharia for Amanah Raya. She is a member of the Sharia Committee of CIMB Islamic, Sun Life Malaysia, Takaful, and MDSB. In 2011, she was a professor, Comparative Law and Sharia, as well as the director of Center for Corporate Planning and Leadership at UKM. She was appointed as a Senior Principal Fellow of Institute of West Asian Studies. She was a Dean, Faculty of Business and Accountancy at University of Selangor. She formerly practiced law at Messrs. Abraham and O and Co. before becoming a lecturer at UKM in 1996. She is a qualified Sharia lawyer of the State of Negeri Sembilan. Currently, she has been appointed as a country member to the Special Committee for Research and Strategic Planning, the National Socio-Economic Development Policy. She has more than 24 years of experiences in academic fields. Her areas of interest include Islamic law, Islamic finance, takaful and insurance law, equity and trust law, and business law and ethics. She has published various impactful research papers and articles as policy papers for Wakaf economic development at international level. She received the Best Business Law Professor Award recently by the Golden Globe Tigers 2019, an association of World Federation of Education and Academic Institution. Professor Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob was ranked 22nd in the 2019 Top 50 Most Influential Women in Islamic Business and Finance by IFA Cambridge, UK. Our second panelist is Tuan Hajijais Abdulkarim, right? Was born on 25th May 1973 in Tanjung Tokong, Pulau Pinang. He is an NGO activist and entrepreneur who qualified with a Bachelor of Laws in IUM in 1998. His government position include member of Majlis Perundingan Belia Negara, founder member of Majlis Perundingan Melayu, and member of Majlis Perundingan Islam. He is the founder and first president of Malaysia Corruption Watch. Currently, he is an entrepreneur and full-time youth social activist. Awards and appointments for Tuan Hajijais include Rakan Wasatiyah from Prime Minister's Department, Tokoh Adiwangsa GPMS, and he's also appointed as the Board of Director of Institute Penyelidikan Pembangunan Belia Malaysia. Currently, he is the the chairman of Yayasan Gabungan Pelajar Melayu Semenanjung, and also the advisor of National GPMS. Our third panelist is Mr. Jufitri Johar, who is currently the president of Malaysian Youth Council and activist of Muslim Youth Movement of Malaysia, ABIM. He obtained LLB from International Islamic University of Malaysia and Master of Arts in Community and Youth Work from Durham University, United Kingdom, under the Chevening Scholarship. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD in Youth Studies at Institute for Social Science Studies of UPM. Being a full-time youth activist, he is actively involved in advocating various international issues related to Islamic world and consulting several youth development programs and policies. He has been exposed to several international programs, including Australia Muslim Leadership Training and United States of America International Visitor Leadership Program. Mr. Jufitri was also the chairman of Malaysia Lifeline for Syria, a coalition of several NGOs focusing on delivering humanitarian aid to Syrian refugees and internally displaced people. He was also the founding chairman of Malaysian National Federation of Youth Workers, which actively promotes professionalization of youth work in Malaysia. He received the highest recognition from Malaysian government as a National Youth Award receiver, individual male category in May 2015 during the National Youth Day celebration and ASEAN Youth Day Award in Brunei Darussalam in September 2015. Recently, he was appointed as the board member, Commonwealth Alliance of Youth Worker Association and Corruption Consultative and Preventive Panel of Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission. Right. First, I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Nur Inaya for her 20 minutes presentation, right? On Muamalah Ecosystem Post-Pandemic, Potentials for Zakat and Wakaf Innovative Management.
Thank you, Dr. Zarina, respected and honorable country professors, guest speakers, and keynote speakers over there, and the rest of ladies and gentlemen. Auzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Well, my topic for today's presentation is Muamalah Ecosystem Post-Pandemic, Potentials for Zakah, Waqaf, Innovative Management. If you see from my... Okay. If you look at to my second slide, it sounds like my presentation is very into the Sharia paper, or rather Islamic laws, but bear in mind that my paper is going to identify the potentials for zakat and wakaf instruments in ecosystem of transactions. Muamalah, if I may translate into English, it is transactions, daily transaction by people. So today I'm going to share what are the possible potentials for zakat and wakaf innovative management post-pandemic, inshallah. So if we see my second slide, why do we have to comply with Sharia? It is because of regulator or creator. So in this context, perhaps I may share to comply with Sharia in all the transactions daily is because of the creator. Okay, so then all right. And as Islamic worldview for purpose of life, let me also share the two connotation which are very material, like vicegerent and worship. So when we talk about principles like a contract of tabarru'at in Arabic, tabarru'at means a contract without any consideration, like love. We don't give love in order to get back love. We give love without any consideration because we give with full attention of what we want to do with our own heart, from the bottom of our heart. And in this context, we deliver anything because for the sake of the creator. So with that as a background, all right. Oh, sorry. Right. So my next slide is to show how these philanthropies of wakaf, zakat, and I also include others tabarru'at dispose of ownership like hibah, gift or wasiyah or faraid, and also element of halal. And I'm very glad to know that the Tokushuko University also have Sharia wings over there, and look forward to have a collaborations in Sharia perspective with in the context of consumerism. So if you look at all the 5 blue box, now we have to identify in order to look at this new well, I consider new because wakaf and zakat has not been punctually stated as instruments to take care of the consumerism so far. It's very infant. So now we see how people consuming goods and services in the era of COVID and also after COVID. And this new habit forcing retailers to think out of box. And we as buyers also will think out of box in order to get what we want. Then do we have a decision making being a consumer and also retailer in these special conditions of life? And we can also divert these context into the dynamicity of the ecosystem of buying and purchase. And now we see that everything has been changed, especially in the conduct. So I'm also happy to hear that we come up with the trust-based management, value-based management. These are all very much similar to the concept of tabarru'at transactions. So because of these circumstances, I think, all right, then as Muslims ecosystem, Muslim has to bear in mind the principles and objective of Sharia, objective of life. So may I reiterate, number one is to protect the religion, to protect the life, to protect our intellectual, to protect dignity and descendants, and also to protect property and wealth. So these should be the main basis for every Muslims when deal with transactions in as a way of life. So all the light blue small box as navigators on these slides, like improve social welfare, okay, how to promote economic growth. This is to link the potentials of wakaf and zakah as well as other tabarruats instruments in order to be together as a platform in the context of era COVID and post-COVID. The third one, to help communities survive. And the current incident, the current event happening in Malaysia now is by Housing Ministry, where they have a so-called a project of houses for B40 proposed buyer or tenant on the Wakaf land. So these are a new project developed by the ministry itself. We have identified land, wakaf land around the world, around in Malaysia. So Ministry of Housing and Development will build house for poor, and the poor will become a tenant of that house. And because the land is the subject matter of State Religious Council, and it is still under the custody of the State Federal Religious Council. And zakat and wakaf as support program. My fear is the gambling. Of course, we will not want our people to involve heavily, or we want to eliminate completely habit of doing gambling in this context of new normal. And how to produce and how to guarantee the debt-free ecosystem. So zakat and wakaf is seen to have maximum potentials for debt-free ecosystem and also riba-free ecosystem. And this eventually will reduce inequality. All right, wrong button. All right. Now, my 6 slides is to show the main target, perhaps the immediate target, by having the two innovative instruments like zakat and wakaf, is to minimize distress surroundings. And because we always know as being Muslim, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And we know that there are two specific of ibadah. General ibadah goes to all types of ibadah with intention to attain the pleasure of God. And another specific ibadah is praying, prayer, fasting, pilgrimage, and zakat. So when we talk about zakat, zakat, it is very clear. It is specific ibadah and the pillars of Islam. But when we talk about wakaf, it is actually only qat'iyyah mentioned in one hadith. Iza mata ibnu Adam in qata'an amaluhu illa misalah. Sadaqah jariyah, ilmun yuntafi' bihi, aw walad salih. So the word sadaqah jariyah is actually wakaf. And wakaf has been tremendously debated by ulama to include the investment as well as the saving as well as the suku, many other instruments for financial development in the context of Sharia. Okay, so may I just share the current WHO report regarding the major disruption to critical mental health services. As you can see in the red circle, I summarize it. Over 60% reported disruptions to mental health services for vulnerable people, including children and adolescents, 72%, older adults 70%, and women requiring antenatal or postnatal services 60%, and vice versa, and so on, so on. This is to show that the statistic of people, vulnerable people especially, perhaps we may also say that in the context of talking about COVID-19, the vulnerable not only goes to the actual vulnerable, perhaps normal people will also be included in that vulnerable, because vulnerable now has to be revisited in terms of terminology, right? Right, so my next slide is on a bit for the sake of those who are not familiar with Malaysia, the commercial transaction with regards to the Islamic commercial transaction is provided in our main constitution of Malaysia. But the only difference is, as compared to other personal Muslim laws, personal Muslim laws is governed by the state law. But for commercial matters, including Islamic financial matters, it is the jurisdiction of the federal, except zakat and wakaf. Zakat and wakaf always goes to state. Things like financial instruments, the product of financial instrument belong to Islamic banks, will go to civil and federal legislation. This is to show that perhaps to me, I see this is the strength of Malaysian set up governance, because zakat is state authority, wakaf is state authority, and being a state authority, it will goes back to what Professor Sendo said, trust-based management. So wakaf and zakat is 100% related to trust and value-based. And I am suggesting and proposing here that in order to safeguard all the people from hardship of life, perhaps we may initiate all these instruments into the so-called governance of foundation, like foundation of wakaf, foundation of zakah, so that all the states in Malaysia will be under one roof as foundation. Okay, so right, and the objective of these instruments of zakah and wakaf to be part and parcel of the ecosystem when dealing with the hardship of people during the post-COVID and COVID-19 is because we want to have a kind of ummah with taqwa environment. This is to show that when people always been trained to deliver or to give something without consideration, it is actually to build up the environment with taqwa. Okay, because we give something without any consideration, and if we put all these givings in so-called foundations or any other means like fund, we may be able to help other people, not necessarily a Muslim, because wakaf is not meant for Muslim only. And zakat also now, the ijtihad, the modern ruling of ijtihad of zakat, it is also able to be given to non-Muslim. What more about wakaf? Wakaf is not only the beneficiary from Muslims. Okay. And I skip this one, right? For the sake of Professor Sendo, perhaps if we want to compare what's the difference between zakat and wakaf, zakat is actually means that to purify, and all the Muslim who are eligible to pay must pay minimum 2.5% of their wealth every year to the poor, needy, destitute, and others. And wakaf refers to an act of giving for charity in perpetuity. So being a perpetual in nature, it is very significant to be considered as part and parcel of the main instrument to minimize the hardship suffered by mankind on the world, in the world, on earth, especially during the COVID and post-COVID. I give one example, being a director, the director, independent director of one country trustee like Amanah Raya. This is part and parcel of the example being a trustee, endorsed by the country level. So the protection of beneficiary, the protection of trust money is there as a governance. The only problem is the people who manage, but that one is beyond what we are going to discuss today. But the foundation as instrument, or the trustee as instrument, is very flexible, and yet the integrity is always there and not to be tainted easily. So bear with me a second. Okay. Now, this slides is to show how to distribute the proceeds from the principle of wakaf. I give you one example of children education. Perhaps what we want to achieve by end of year 2020 is to have 50 million principal, let's say, to be put in special fund or a special yayasan or foundation. And as for your information, the latest information by PPZ Wilayah Persekutuan, one of the center to collect zakat, they have reported that for 2020, they have almost collected almost 700 million as compared to last year, about only 600 million something. It shows that people in this hardship circumstances, because of the subject matter, we want to obey God, we want to obey Allah, we pay because it's the pillars of Islam. And imagine that 700 million collections of zakat, if a portion of 50 million to be as principle, so that we can perhaps help this amount of money to children, for children education. For example, perhaps certain amount to spending scholarship to be received by the student at university and colleges, perhaps on emergency cases, perhaps on the buying books online, on universities that cannot have a direct teaching and learning process, and deposit or pocket money for students, a poor student, and etc. So this is one example where we can strategize for the instrument of wakaf. Okay. And this is for wakaf also, where other than just merely put as a fixed deposit account in order to have a proceeds, these are other wakaf scheme that to be able to be developed in Malaysia as well as in other country in order to have we call it, in order to be a help center later on, if we still in the pandemic area, let's say for the next 5 years. For example, real estate investment trust with wakaf, corporate share wakaf, and cash wakaf for public. From here, from this slide, we may understand that, like Professor Tan Sri was saying about branding. Now it is about branding, and our learned friend over there also said about how to regain the branding, to put back in the so-called the real branding. So I think by virtue of this innovative management of zakah and wakaf, not only to claim the suitable and quality branding, if it is so, but at least to ensure that vulnerable people can live in a quality and harmonious kind of living in whatever circumstances tested by God. And this is another example of distribution of wakaf. Perhaps all the public donation and private donation, we have a trust committee. This is again on trust-based management and value-based management, and we can disembark and disseminate into barriers of manfaah to the beneficiaries regardless of races and religion. Okay. My next third slide. These are other players, government, NGO, which who can also take part in the new dimensions of ecosystem of zakah and wakaf management. Because we may also mapping the Sharia rulings with SDGs and Maqasid Sharia, the objectives of Sharia, so that we may from these big players to identify which are the most prioritized project that we are going to look at in order for the next 10 years we are stable in whatever circumstances. Okay. I skip this one. I think this is my last slide to show that the governance framework, at least we should have the red one as foundation, whether zakat or wakaf foundation, as one of the primary centers in that setup. We should have a board of directors if it is incorporative whatsoever, then board of governors from various background like NGOs, and of course we should have trustees. And again, when we talk about wakaf in Malaysia, we must cooperate with state religious council. So we have 13 state to be there, and we must have the fatwa giving committee, so that we know whether the certain product can be distributed, can be taken by certain projects, and also the dimension that we are going to invest the wakaf proceeds. And of course, the minister should be there in order to support, to make things done, but like what Dato was saying just now. And if I can go back in the year of where University of Al-Azhar in Egypt was established, it was first set up to be the guardian for the president. You see, but now it already faded about the main function of the establishment of Jamiatul Azhar. But this context can be the advisories to the government as well, so that we can avoid the corruption, we can avoid bribes, because everyone is in one platform where there is clear and transparent check and balance. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Naya. Right. I would like to invite the second panelist, Tuan Hajijais Abdulkarim, President of Malaysia Corruption Watch, to give a 20 minutes presentation on his title, Consumerism and Cybercrime. Right? Oh, corruption and cybercrime. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Chairperson, Honorable Tan Sri Zul, as Director of UIA, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to UIA for inviting me for the special session today. I'm the graduate of UIA, first batch final year, 1997. So among the first batch enter UIA during UIA Gombak, I mean, UIA Gombak campus, Kuliah of Laws, I call. Yeah. So Alhamdulillah, today I have the opportunity to share about my NGO also, how Malaysia Corruption Watch works together with MACC in combating corruption in Malaysia. We are founded in 2017 and as a non-governmental and non-partisan organization. Committed to help Malaysia fight against corruption. MACC is together with us during our establishment during that year. The mission, we have a very clear mission and vision, and also my point of discussion today mostly is about the cause and effect of corruption to consumer in Malaysia post-pandemic era. So with the simple introduction to my NGO, I wish to address Tan Sri Zul. I know him since I'm 15 years old. He's the one who poisoned my mind. He's the chairman Pengarah Pusat Racun Negara, USM during that time. So he's the one who poisoned my mind to study hard and enter university. Thank you very much, Tan Sri. So, and I can't forget his story about 1969 crisis, whereby a group of Chinese friends stay in his house as a protection place, Indian as a protection place. I can't forget that. That's how, during that time, relationship among the races in Malaysia, even though we have problem during that time, but they work together hand in hand. Also today I'm very proud because my first principal at Abu Bakar College, Prof. Hasanuddin, also here. When I'm first here, he's the principal and also the president of the college, Dr. Nur Hadi, also here. Very historic moment today for me. So cause and effect of corruption to consumers. Khatijah College principal also here. I also was trained by Almarhum Tan Sri, Mr. S.M. Idris in Penang. After my SPM, I'm doing practical with them, and his English is very good. My English is very poor during that time, and he always tell me, Jais, before you are the Tada Harapan student, with Mamak slang. Now you become Ada Harapan because you managed to enter UIA. So this is the time for you to help all the Tada Harapan student to be a Ada Harapan student. So that's really motivate me also. I cry when he passed away. I really miss him. So back to our topic today on consumers. When Prof. Hasanuddin and Dr. Dohadi invite me to talk about the consumers post pandemic, I say left consumer. I didn't talk about consumer for almost 15 years, I think. But today I try to relate what I'm doing in anti-corruption, education for anti-corruption with the consumers, effect to the people of Malaysia especially. Okay, but this is a very small. I divide the effect, cause and effect into four areas. There is political, environmental, social, and economical. For political, is undermine the democratic institution and the rule of law. Office and institution lose their legitimacy when they are misused for private advantage. An example of corruption is a government that pretends to be for the protection of people, but is selecting vendors based on how their contract will benefit them personally. Socially, citizens compelled to pay for service that should be free. It's affect life, substandard quality of goods and service. For example, building collapse, killing innocent people due to the contract being awarded to inefficient companies who paid bribe to win the contract. It's undermine people trust in the political system, institution, and leadership. Environmental, our natural resources, balak, for example, are carelessly exploited and ecological systems are ravaged due to non-enforcement of environmental law. Economical is robbing the national wealth. Public resources are diverted in projects that will line the pockets rather than benefit communities such as school, hospital, and road. World Bank estimated the total amount of bribe paid in developing and developed countries are at $1 trillion, about 3% of world GDP. This is the figure for year 2001-2002. So, what is our situation in Malaysia? In Malaysia, post-pandemic, we have two problems known as COCO. There is COVID and corruption. Today, for today's discussion, we add one more co, that is consumers. So we have triple co problem. Every problem starts from us as human beings. We must have principle and determination to solve all these problems. We shall start with integrity, the most important human values. What is integrity? Integrity is doing good and correct deeds according to the religion, laws, and rules, although no eyes look. MashaAllah, very small. I'm really sorry. The seriousness of corruption problem in Malaysia post-pandemic era. First, the violation of integrity and corruption is a social disease that has many adverse effects, not only on individuals, but also on society and the country at any time. It seems to be getting worse lately. Second, despite various efforts made by the authorities, especially the MACC and the Malaysian Institute of Integrity in disseminating information and educating the public about the dangers of corruption and lack of integrity, this act is seen as still difficult to be eradicated completely. The problem of corruption and integrity violations in Malaysia can be seen to be serious, but still, for us, it's still under control. Corruption often gets attention because it is often reported in the media, and the people also want to see the government and the law enforcement to take action against corruption. The seriousness and the willingness of the government to eradicate corruption is exposed when the MACC authorities, through various enforcement operations, have succeeded in producing the result when many corruption arrests are made. The increasing data or statistic of arrests from the MACC do not reflect the seriousness of the problem of corruption in this country. In terms of perception, we will see it get more serious. However, in terms of reality, it proves the determination of our enforcement agency that the MACC is working hard to fight corruption in Malaysia. Roughly, there are 12 main reasons that lead to corruption and integrity violation. Various human weakness and life syndromes drive to this problem. Various negative effects of the problem of corruption will definitely be highlighted to prove why it still persists. The result of the MACC own investigation and study found that corruption is the mother of all crimes in Malaysia. Mother, what is the father? Let's talk about the mother first. The most important thing. Whereas serious crimes stem from corruption, it is rampant because the enforcement agency involved have closed their eyes to receiving bribes. Although only a handful of them are involved, but the impact is huge on the country's economy and social. The conclusion, the principle of combating corruption is very simple, which is there is no giver when there is no recipient. The fight against corruption needs to be intensified, immediately restrain all the factors that drive the crime. When I was in Manila last year, Philippine television interview me. I speak like Filipinos. I influenced by their lingo, their style of speaking. Unbelievable. Every year, I bring 40 members of MCW to visit foreign country to learn how we can combat corruption based on their experience. For the first year, 2017, we go to Indonesia. Indonesia improved a lot lately on corruption because they really focus to fight corruption. In Singapore, they are very small country. Too difficult to compare to Malaysia or Indonesia. Compared to Philippines, they have about 100 laws on corruption, including kleptocrat law. In Malaysia, we still don't have the kleptocrat law, but we are having the same problem with them more and more. Okay, what is the function? What is the function of individuals in curbing this consumers' corruption problem? First, we must learn the science of integrity and all its positive values. We must be an agent to spread the message of integrity and anti-corruption to the community. We must organize various interesting programs in our own respective areas. Congratulations to UIA today for this program. This should be a starting point, very important starting point. We need to contribute energy, time, and ideas in effort to strengthen integrity and prevent corruption. Be the eyes and ears of the authorities like MACC. Since our establishment year 2017 until now, 3.5 years already, we're receiving about 390 cases to be reported to various agencies, not only MACC. Report any acts of corruption and abuse of power to the MACC, being a role model of individuals with integrity to society. What are the functions and roles of NGO to help the public? Advantages owned by NGO is made up of members from various races and religions, members from various backgrounds. My colleague, Saudara Julfitri, he's the president of Malaysia Youth Council. For sure, under Malaysia Youth Council, there is 40 NGOs, including from various race and religion, and work together to make sure Malaysia free from corruption. NGO also as the third force that transcend political boundaries. I would like to conclude with a simple story which I really like this story. It's about one family, one old man stay in Basra, send his son to study about from the best teacher in the town, about 200 kilometers from their town. After a few years, his son come back and say he learned everything he can learn. But the father said, I want you to learn something you can't learn in classroom. So go back to your teacher and tell him my wish. When he met his teacher and explained what his father said, the teacher understand and tell him, I have 400 goat. You bring all the 400 goat to the hill behind our town. And after the goat achieve 1,000, you come back. On the way to that hill, he really struggled to control these 400 goat. And from time to time, he learned to talk to the nature. He learned how to control himself. Then he got the opportunity to talk to his God. After 2 years, he managed to control and easily bring 1,000 goat, come back to see his teacher. And his teacher said, you have learned everything outside your classroom. So the conclusion, lesson learned from this story is very simple. The journey to understand the meaning of integrity and anti-corruption must start from now. Understand all the positive qualities such as honest, trust, integrity, and transparent. There is one wisdom word said, bad morals are like broken pottery. It can no longer be glued and cannot be returned to the ground. Second, the student and activists like me especially need to be diligently seek knowledge both inside and outside the classroom. It is this knowledge that will be the light in life. The gold mine in you is your own mind. We can dig as deep and as satisfied as we want. Third, foster a responsibility to ensure that all effort and tasks are successfully performed. There is a Chinese proverb that says, deviating an inch, losing 1,000 miles. Follow and understand the order of life. Everything has rules and guidelines that have been set. Failure to understand, comply with the new norms and rules will bring great consequences in life. Lastly, be proactive and responsive to the situation around you. The proactive and responsive nature will ensure that each task can be performed quickly and efficient. Prepare an umbrella before it rains. Sediakan payung sebelum hujan. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hajijais. Right. The third panelist, Mr. Jeffrey bin Johar, the president of Majlis Belia Malaysia, will present his title on consumerism and youth for 20 minutes, right? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and colleague panelists, brothers and sisters and ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me back in the garden of virtue and knowledge. Today I'm going to present on consumerism in post-pandemic era to be focused on the youth matter. As an introduction, consumerism broadly concerns consumption. Specifically, it refers to the excessive overconsumption of consumer goods without regards to the negative impacts to people and the planet. Cases in Malaysia, not many consumers, especially among the young people, not many consumers, especially the young people, aware and know that they have right in consumerism issues. So that's why in Malaysian Youth Council, as the umbrella for almost 40 main youth organizations, we are focusing more on informal education as a feeder to the formal education in school and university, to educating our young people with so many stuff and matters including what we are talking today is consumer education. Allow me to give an example. Consumers have the right to take legal action against parties who commit certain action that affect their life, including in the issues of water resource pollution in the Selangor River that we are facing right now in Selangor. The right to file a summons is provided in accordance with the Water Services Industry 2006 Act 9655 and the Environmental Quality Act 1974. But the process must go through the court. Lecturer in the International Law Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, one of the local university in Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Salawati Mat Basir said that the existing act was sufficient to protect the right of consumer affected by the water crisis, but was seen as difficult to take advantage of. This is because of the people face constraint to uphold their rights. Among the obstacles are who wants to collect case information, who is willing to pay court costs, lawyers how to be appointed, and they must also have a local standby. Consumerism in pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, consumer issues have a direct impact on the cost of living. Games in terms of the price of a product or service are always seen to be played by the suppliers. Often there is a situation when the demand from consumer is high, then the price of a product or service also increases. As long as there is no enforcement, independent suppliers and sellers place high prices. Issues like this that the Malaysian Youth Council often fight for through awareness campaigns such as the Squad Maps program that we launched recently. Squad Map stands for Squad Menggerak Pengguna Siswa. We try to educate our young people in the local university, and this initiated by our Unity and Consumer Bureau under Malaysian Youth Council. They are very active to educate our young people in local university to alert and aware about their right as a consumer, because we know that our young people in Malaysia is the largest portion of the consumer in Malaysia. So there are been, a group of vulnerable that need to be guided and to be educated, especially when we talk about consumer education. So we have to train them their basic right when they try to buy their goods and foods, so that they are, literate in consumer education. So we try to use many channels, including through our educational program like Squad Max program, through our roundtable discussion that we conducted among our young leaders, also with various ministries, agencies, NGO, and consumer related to consumer education. And we also utilized a formal platform like NACOL that we are being invited in. NACOL stands for National Action Council on Cost of Living, whereby we try to represent our young people in Malaysia to focus on how to deal with crucial issues related to cost of living, such as like utilities, which is very close to our young people, transportations, housings that our young people always need when they enter into marriage, educations, what else, food, and also the most important thing within the life of the young people is education. So we are using this kind of platform, NACOL, National Action Council on Cost of Living, to fight for the interest and the aspiration of the young people, especially when related to utilities, transportation, housing, education, food, and so on. So ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the MCO in March 2020, the price of health protection good increased. The price of face masks reached 100 ringgit per box, which is extremely expensive, although there are low qualities. Prices of these disinfectants are rising in supermarket. Not to be missed, the hotel sector. When we talk about tourism industry, we always encourage our young people to get involved in domestic tourism, because according to the survey conducted by the Institute of Youth Research under the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the most important sector that our young people need to focus in is domestic tourism, because domestic tourism is capable to generate income, especially during COVID-19. So not to be missed, the hotel sector. Once the MCO allows people across the state, you can see for yourself, and I believe that you're witnessing it, the hotel prices in hotel booking portals such as Trivago, Booking and more, prices go up sharply. Consumers have the right to information required to make the right choice. Especially, we have to educate our young people to make the right choice by feeding them with the right information. So consumers have the right to the information required to make the right choice, from misleading advertisement, label, as well as selection of goods and services at reasonable price, as well as satisfactory quality assurance. So the sellers try to, use the advertisement platform to incite and to encourage our young people to buy more. So they sometimes mislead our young people who need to be equipped with adequate information for them. Post-pandemic, the pandemic through the lockdown period to some extent made the community aware of managing their right as consumers. So we learned a lot, and I believe that our young people learned a lot during the COVID. We consider COVID-19 as a game changer and also a blessing in disguise. So our young people relearn to reset their life. They are beginning to preserving the family values. They are being taught to back to the basic of the industry, food security, to preserve the hygiene and healthy life, to go back to the basic industry of the economy, of course, to encourage more young people to get involved in agriculture. So we encourage our young people to participate in agriculture to secure for the food in the future. So we also encourage our young people to get involved in gig economy, because as predicted by Professor Suhai Inayatullah, one of the futurists that we have opportunity to have training with Professor Suhai Inayatullah, he anticipate that in the future the young people will do 17 jobs at the same time. So COVID-19 is the game changer to accelerate the process of bringing all the young people to get incorporated into the gig economy. So with the collaboration of the Ministry of Youth and Sport, together with Malaysian Youth Council, we already launched a specific agenda on gig economy called My Gig, to further insight and encourage our young people to get involved completely in gig economy. We call it in Malay, ekonomi lejang. So I managed to interview one of the success story from UiTM graduates, young ladies managed to earn for yearly almost 1 million ringgit as a revenue. One of the our young ladies who get involved in call herself as virtual assistant. So she managed to master more than 7 languages. So he got one project from Korea to translate Korean movie from Korean language to Malay language. So the experience through the lockdown period to some extent made the community aware of managing their rights as consumer. As I mentioned earlier, that the young people learn a lot from the COVID-19. At the beginning of the lockdown period, people went through a period of panic. People seemed to be afraid of hunger, afraid of running out of toilet paper, afraid of running out of gardenia bread, and so on, and more. Panic buying occurs in purchasing activities, whether online or physical purchases. This situation occurs because most Malaysians have never been through a disaster experience before. This is unprecedented tragedy that never happened before. Over time, people begin to realize the importance of managing expenses in disaster situation. No need to panic. So young people learn on how to having enough saving for at least not only 6 months, but longer than that. Even they must have a good saving for approximately at least 1 year to survive in this pandemic. So young people learn a lot from this COVID-19. So we encourage our young people to have a financial literacy during COVID-19, because when we opened our Pusat Aduan during the COVID-19, most of the young people, they didn't have any saving, including our student in university. So we try to collaborate with MFPC, Malaysian Financial Planning Council, to educate our young people on how to manage their wealth and their money wisely and properly. So this is kind of really extremely important skill that need to be embedded within our young people in Malaysia. So the lockdown period also shows that the online product service sales sector is growing rapidly. Online trading activity recorded an increase of 28.9% last April, when the country enforced the PKP, or movement control order, starting from March onward. Despite the chaos that is taking place in our country, there is also implicit wisdom. Governments often encourage citizens to use the application and services provided in educating the public towards the use of technology as early as possible. To some extent, during the MCO period, the people begin to realize the existence of various services available to them online. And we don't have any problem when we talk about young people. They are, we call it, they are Y generation. They are Z generation who were born after 1995. They are tech savvy and they are technological junkies. They are more adaptive compared to the baby boomers and X generation like Abang Jais and us. So they are more tech savvy, and they are, I think, according to the Job Street, survey, our young people, especially the Z generation, don't have any problem to adapt with the new normal, especially when we talk about e-commerce, we talk about gig economy and so on. So the phenomenon of e-commerce has changed 100 degrees when the pandemic that appeared around March 2020 has spread around the world, including Malaysia. The whole new normal has changed the way most business sector operate. MCO has changed the way consumer demand for goods has also changed. Users are more comfortable doing business online because it saves time, and it also saves without any physical touch and physical transaction. And to note that our government for the past 2021 budget presentation presented by our finance minister, in order to incite and to encourage our young people to do transaction online. So our government generously granted 100 ringgit to our young people, range from 80 to 20, and extended to our student in university, to granted 100 ringgit through e-Belia program, to encourage our young people to do transaction online. So e-commerce is already our way of life, especially among the young people. They are most adaptive to the new normal. So ladies and gentlemen, to meet consumer demand, the business sector needs to make a leap from total physical management to online. So they managed to reach out our young people, especially who mingling around. 80% of our young people using online platform to merely communicate. And as a youth organization, umbrella for the youth organization, we try to educate our young people to maximize the application of the internet platform, not only as a user and to merely communicate with their friends, but to become what we call it, innovators, digital innovators, to innovate more in order to generate more income and economic values by utilizing the online platform. So we try to educate them to maximize the application of digital platform. And most recently, we have a good collaboration with a Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission to educate our young people to maximize the application of the digital platform in order to become digital innovators rather than to become only novice users. So traders need to make changes in their business dealing by using the latest technology to stay competitive and need to start using technologies in daily business. Clear information and term must be used properly so that customers know what they will get, the price offered, and the advantages of the product. Recently, there was an issue due to the use of the term cash on delivery, COD. According to the eNiaga dictionary, COD is a cash payment that must be paid by the user during the deliveries of good, that is the price of good, including service charge, if any. For users familiar with the term COD means no additional charge. Lately, it has been found that the most merchants use the term COD and shipping charges, which can confuse customer, especially our young people. The issues exist because most customers refuse to pay extra for the COD term. Therefore, it is recommended that traders use the term cash with delivery charge, CDC, instead of COD, by placing the price of goods and delivery charges as the following example. Last two paragraph, meaning the customer will pay 11 ringgit in cash during the delivery of murtabak, for example, in front of the house in the Chakras area, for example. This information is more transparent and users are aware of the additional charges. If traders still want to use COD, they can make advertisement as follow, which is the tastiest murtabak in Kuala Lumpur, COD 12. It means customer will pay only 12 ringgit in cash during delivery of murtabak in front of the house in Chakras area without any additional charges. Finally, business with good marketing strategies can make your business and our business the main choice of consumer, especially among young people. Your business and our business can also grow exponentially and can be adapted to the current situation. Make this new norm situation into an opportunity and space that traders need to take to continue their business with the help of computer technology. And with that notes, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
Jufitri, right? So we have about 15 minutes left for question and answer. So I would like to open to the floor, Dr. Suhaimi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to the panelists. I would like to ask Prof. Dato' Nur Inayah about the wakaf and zakat. Do we have a national blueprint to educate people to use wakaf and zakat to replace the capitalism of free market? It seems that Prof. Kamal Hassan also suggested us, we have to say goodbye to the free market, to the capitalism, and welcome ahlan wa sahlan, wakaf, zakat, infaq into our life. Because you mentioned giving, the upper hand is the Islamic way of life. So when we have giving, so I think we don't have less consumption and less expenses, because giving through wakaf mean you give the most, so there is no spirit to consume. I'm not sure whether we have that blueprint. Thank you. And then secondly, I would like to ask my senior brother Hajijais, about the blueprint, to educate people to be, to say corruption, to say no to corruption, and to say no excessive consumption. How we can do that? And also, I would like to know from this the youth movement. You have more than 40, nationwide. How can we mobilize, the young people to say no to consumption, to go back to the circular economy, to consume whatever we have. We don't have, then don't buy. We don't have tamar, don't eat tamar. We don't have corn, don't buy corn. Just whatever we have in our backyard, just consume. Is it possible for young people to live in that situation? Thank you very much.
Can we answer? Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, my brother. Well, there is no specific blueprint for wakaf. There is no specific blueprint for zakah, but there is a blueprint currently being developed by the government on blueprint for socio-economic, which encompasses of wakaf, sadaqah, hibah, zakah, and government has currently identified what sort of projects to be nurtured, like housing, accommodations, lodging for poor, deriving from the manfaat of zakah and wakaf. So we currently set up a committee. I'm one of it since 2018 actually, but only now they have gazetted as a blueprint for socio-economic. I think to have a clearer picture on that, perhaps my brother can go to Johar because they are the owner of that blueprint. And if I'm not mistaken, during the last budget, uh, recently announced by Tengku Zafro, there is some amounts of millions goes to this project on wakaf development. Perhaps Prof. Nasir also want to insert the value base, the sejahtera, because I don't think the word sejahtera is there. I guess, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. We have many anti-corruption plan in Malaysia. The problem is when we have many plan, we pelan-pelan tolak. That is the problem in Malaysia. Everything is about plan. For example, in immigration department, they have special plan launched last year. But early this year, one immigration officer have 4 watches, each cost price 150,000. One person have 4 watches like that. MashaAllah. I can't imagine whether he insane or not to wear 4 watch at one time. We need to send him to Tanjung Rambutan. He same time zone. I wear 150 ringgit watch and 150,000 same time, no problem. But greediness and fashion, they want to show off their luxury. That is the problem. That's why we also suggest to the government, the best thing to educate and make sure people are really not practicing corruption is by increasing the punishment of anti-corruption. Lashing must be established. They must introduce hukuman sebat. Sebab orang kita ni, bila kata sebat baru dia takut. In China, why people afraid to do corruption? Because shoot to death. What is the philosophy behind shoot to death punishment? Very simple. Based on old Chinese philosophy, that is when we kill one chicken ayam lah bagi. Chicken lah. When we kill one chicken, we make sure all the monkeys run away. Monkey, monyet, dia takut tengok darah. Dia ingat yang tu darah kawan-kawan dia. Padahal darah ayam ya. Itu sebab kenapa dan hukuman tembak tu only once a year happen. Tetapi, but all Chinese officer now are very clean because of that punishment. The problem is, in Malaysia, for example, undang-undang politik wang dah disediakan sejak tahun 2015. But until now, they failed to present it to the parliament. They said this coming December. Now almost middle of December already. Still no news. Next year again, 2021 already. 6 years already. And the politician, our politician is the main culprit. The political will, I have to loudly speak about this. Our politician, we have no political will to make sure that our country free from corruption. That is among the problem in Malaysia. I hope after this, we can work together. University, public, college, private college, and also all the NGOs in Malaysia, we work together to make sure Malaysia bersih dari rasuah. Terima kasih.
If I may answer the question, thank you, Doctor, for your kind question. As I mentioned earlier during my presentation, we are believe in promoting informal education to feed the formal education in school and university, because most of our young people learns a lot from this informal education platform, because it's more interactive and more hands-on and so on. So that's why we're emphasizing on having more youth organization in Malaysia. So by having more kind of youth organization, we can, I mean, aggressively educate our young people through this informal platform through the youth organization. I think most of the, when we talk about youth development, we are more focusing on to address the physical needs of our young people rather than the spiritual dimension, the mental dimension of our young people. So that's why I think we always emphasize on tackling with the issues of employment, job, social problem, and so on. And we are, I mean, forgetting to deal with the spiritual dimension of our young people. So that's why when we the last time that we heard about falsafah pembangunan belia during Anwar Ibrahim as the president of Malaysian Youth Council. After that we didn't hear any, I mean, philosophy regarding to on how to develop our young people holistically. So for the modern era today, we try to, I mean, to aid our young people by crafting ideas, new ideas called falsafah pengislahan belia, to educate our young people to being brought up, I mean, holistically, physically, mentally, and also spiritually. And I believe that one of the most important aspect that we have to educate our young people is by educating our young people back to the basic values and the meaning of the life. So we always emphasize during our training, we have special program called Malaysian Youth Volunteer Leaders under Ministry of Youth and Sport, and I am one of the trainers. We always emphasize on to find the meaning of the life. The value of the life is not, I mean, valued through your physical appearance, but through your inner dimension. So we always quote one of the famous book written by John Wood, Leaving Microsoft to Change the World, whereby in this book, John Wood, who was the, I mean, former leaders of Microsoft in United States of America, leave his chair in Microsoft to change the world by volunteers and to help to set up room to read for the unfortunate children in Bhutan, Nepal, and in the South Asia. So he found the meaning of the life not in Microsoft, but he found the meaning of the life while serving the unfortunate children in rural area like Bhutan, Nepal. So I believe that if we can, I mean, emphasize on this kind of philosophy, and of course, in Malaysian Youth Council, we always talk about this rather than to merely addressing the, I mean, the issues of employment, which is also important. But we try to also focus to educate our young leaders, our youth, to, I mean, to give to back to the basic, to, I mean, appreciate the values and to know the real meaning of the life. And I believe that we can, I mean, to promote minimalist way of life, to, I mean, to encourage our young people to live simply and not to be, I mean, influenced by the social pressure and also the relative pressure especially during Hari Raya, when our family would like to look the kind of the car of the young people. So this kind of social and relative pressure that we need to, I mean, teach our young people on how to handle the social pressure by living simply and practice minimalist way of life. Thank you.
I want to take this opportunity to ask Professor Sendo. Thank you very much. You've been staying with us for a long time. You know, when we talk about this problem, I think Japanese has solved some of its problem by looking at the way of life of the Japanese. I just, for example, take technology. I don't see Japanese using handphones in public transport, for example, be it aeroplane, be it bus, be it the rail. All of them, when they go into a public transport, their handphone will go in their bags. Whereas in Malaysia, the moment you go to public transport, your handphone will come out. You see, the way you educate your population, your young generation, and the way we educate, if at all we educate, I don't think we educate them. That's a difference. So how do you respond to this issue of the younger generation adapting to this new environment of consumerism? Can you please share with us?
In Japan, the family educate the children very well, I think. And also the schools control the fear and emotion of the children, I think. And the government government of education very well control the crisis of COVID-19 this time, I think. But many young students got anger against the education. Some people claimed about the online classes, and the other students anger with the fear of the disease. So at the university, like Takshuk University, we took a long time to discuss how to control the classes and the education. It's very big problem. We are still suffering from the problem.
Prof. Inaya, how could the spirit of wakaf and zakat educate people to be good consumers and avoid overspending? And also to Mr. Jufitri, strategies or blueprint of MBM, Majlis Belia Malaysia, to educate young people to be ethical consumers.
In order to not to overspend is by always bear in mind and soul the maqasid of Sharia. Our brother just now just said that people wearing 4 watches. To me, we have the principles of rulings in usul fiqh, daruriyah, tahsinat, istihsan. Perhaps one already have a house, but maybe the mother would like to have a paint on it with a different color of pink. What is the objective of putting a new paint on it? Perhaps on tahsinat, perhaps maybe dia nak tukar kereta, perhaps nak ada keselesaan. Well, we have to really careful to apply the injunction of istihsan in our life in order to say that we want to move from a quality B to quality A. But as long as we always have concerns about in akhirah, only 3 main criteria will be assessed, which is sadaqah jariyah, ilmu yuntafi'u bihi, wal salih yad'u lahu. And I remember when I read somewhere, ulama always quoted in the heaven letter, only 2 verses will be kept repeating, Surah Taha and Surah Yasin. So if we broadly interpret it, it means a lot, you know, it means a lot. So when we want to spend, make sure that other people maybe needs that. So I think by virtue of zakah is already a pillars of Islam. When we do zakah, you already a obedient servant of Allah. And what more, you do something extra on wakaf, which is not compulsory and mandatory. It is only sunnah. So if you give wakaf and you do expect any consideration, it shows what? It shows that you want to have a living of so-called taqwa kind of environment. So I think by always giving charity, by always giving sadaqah, always giving paying zakat, always giving wakaf, it slowly and gradually train our soul what is actually should and what shouldn't. Thank you.
I mean,
I want to ask you a question. Can we ask a question?
I just want to give a caution when Datuk cakap give tu. For us, giving is always money. You know, so bila give tu maknanya something must come out of pocket and give. But we can give things without giving money. Our kudrat, our niat, our doa. I mean, sometimes this is what makes us a little bit, confused, because we want to give, then you must find money. You cannot find money, you will go and do money corruption so that we can give other people. Yeah. But there is a different way of giving. This is the thing that we have not talked about. The university, how do you give? You clean this place. You clean our campus. There's no money involved. You clean the toilet. There's no money involved. But we don't think along this. We think means must be, 10 ringgit. The better the color, the better. And you sometimes we want to show, and you go to the TV, and then you give. And this kind of giving corrupts us. I think we need to change those kind of things. The humility part we have not spoken about. How do you give with all humbleness? Yang perkataan Melayu kata, I think one hadith, I'm not good at this. Tangan kiri bagi, tangan kanan doesn't know, or something like that. That you give it out of sincerity, not because you want to show off. I think this word giving needs to be dissected a little bit, because giving selalunya lah, we show the minister cium tangan lagi. My God, this is giving. I mean, this is not the kind of giving that we want to talk about. So I hope we will purify this understanding of giving to a certain extent, that we give it because it is sincerely out of our heart. We cannot give with doa. We cannot give with smile. Those are moneyless, but it has a lot of value. So I just want to caution that idea of giving me sometimes, it is not a material gift all the time, inshallah.
Have a giving in the sense of cash and other delivery of disposing property like infaq, kudrah, and also prayer, anything that you give not for your own benefit, for the rest of the public.
I think for the time being, we don't have any specific blueprint for to produce an ethical young consumers, but we have our general philosophical document called National Youth Policy. But this is good suggestion that we can bring upon, that we try to have our own blueprint on ethical consumer, because in Malaysian Youth Council, we believe in, creating and educating a specific youth group to tackle specific issues. Let's say, for example, previously we have a group of young people to focus on the cleanliness of the campaign of cleanliness of the toilet. So we train a specific group, and they focusing on that particular matter. And another group, we collaborate with our young leaders in UMT to promote Ocean Hope campaign to preserve and to love ocean by spreading the message throughout the school, in especially in the primary school. So maybe we can think about this, and I think this is a good suggestion from the floor.
I add what has been said by Professor Tan Sri. We are not only giving for humankind, we also give away our belonging, our kudrat to animals, to plants, to the rest of makhluk or creation.
Izinkan saya untuk conclude in 10 seconds. Anti-corruption start from you. The honest will support this fight. The hero will join us. Thank you very much.
Ahmad?
Yes.
He wrote on, yes.
Actually, I was asking one of our speaker. He just mentioned that one of the best way of tackling with the corruption is asking the government of imposing a very bad punishment like lashes and all. isn't it better to educate the current generation about the corruption or about the corruption problem, or making them aware of the corruption, instead of actually scaring them with the punishment? Like one of our speaker from Japan, she just mentioned that like in Malaysia, we have people when they are traveling in LRTs and public public transport, they have phones in their hand, but in Japan they don't have phones in their hand. They just keep it in their pocket or bags. So they are actually educating their children or the people or the citizen of Japan by by telling them, okay, this is not something good, not like by not scaring them. Okay, just by the parents, like, okay, we keep your phone back. Why can't we just do that, like with the corruption too? Like, instead of giving them punishment, we just educate them or give them a subject in schools or colleges.
In a developing country like Malaysia, education is a must be continuous also. The punishment is important because they are not afraid. They are there to be the pengkhianat negara, the traitor of the country. So we must teach them.
Thank you, Professor Zarina, for
so it's not good for to educate them, and it's good for scare them and punish them. That's what you're saying?
Thank you, Professor Zarina Wan Nasi, our moderator for the panel discussion. And now, it is with pleasure that I call upon Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato' Zulkifli Abdul Aziz, Director of International Islamic University Malaysia, to share his insights on our roundtable session today.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. It gives me a great pleasure to actually be here with you. And I am indeed very honored to have Professor Sendo and Dato' Anwar still with us, sharing thoughts and also sharing their valuable experience with us. It is quite obvious from this discussion today that we have a long way to go. A long way to go in the sense that we need to have the fundamentals in. And the fundamentals to me is basically about the same blueprint that we talked about. We talk about so much of a blueprint, but there's one blueprint that we have not talked about, and that blueprint to me is called fitrah. All of us has got that blueprint, but we have never talked about it. We don't even know what this blueprint is all about. When Jufri talked about life and livelihood, it's about this blueprint. This blueprint is about life. Livelihood becomes second. We have turned everything around. You're talking about livelihood. Once you have livelihood, you do not know how to manage your life because you have never talked about life. And therefore, life becomes what Jais say, become topsy-turvy. Life means you must have 4 watches. Life means you must be a big house. Life means you must have giving and all these things that we talked about, which are all so artificial that we do not know what life is all about. So that's why I say we need to go back to the basic. The basic is about learning who you are, the fitrah that is within you, the blueprint that you are born with, that you don't even get in touch with. And we talk about all other blueprints. That blueprint will not work if your fitrah blueprint does not work. Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan, which is a national education philosophy, talks about that blueprint. It talks about a balanced human being. It talks about a harmonious human being. It talks about a human being that is devoted and compliance to God. It talks about kesejahteraan diri. That's why we use the word sejahtera. And that's about us. The moment you know who you are, then your blueprint is set, then you know where to go. The rest becomes almost just learning from other people and applying it to what life is all about. So I think this is a fundamental that I hope the Kuliah of Economics and Management Science will take on. This is the kind of blueprint that we want to put in so that it becomes relevant to our life and especially the life post-COVID, because life post-COVID is basically means that do you know who you are? If you don't know who you are, then you don't know how to even use terminology. People use terminology like social distancing when they actually mean physical distancing. You know, people are not people are not making a solidarity among themselves. They still think about races. They forgot about humanity. Yeah. If you think on all those terms, we will be defeated by COVID. Already we see, at least I see, the ugliness of the so-called vaccine race. Even the whole clinical trial is not completed. The phase 3 is not completed. Yet people are already producing in the millions. And some even to the minus 70. You need to keep this vaccine at minus 70. Which country can do this? Third world country cannot do this because we don't have even electricity. Forget about minus 70. So you begin to see the politics of vaccine becomes another issue of consumerism. And that is happening right in front of our eyes. So when Jais talk about political will, I think political will is us. We are the politician. We decide what is it that we need to do. It's not the politicians. So unless you begin to turn political will to a consumer's kind of a will, that we demand, that we push, that we coerce, that we ask them to do what we want to do, not what they want to do upon us, then nothing will happen. Politics tomorrow, the same politician will come in and out. So you need to reinterpret. The young generation needs to interpret. The political is your will, not their will. Yes, because we are the one who voted them in. We should be telling them what to do, not they tell us what to do the moment they get voted into office. Before they get voted to office, they come to us. The moment they get the votes, then they don't talk to us anymore. They talk about themselves. They talk about their 4 watches. They talk about their big houses. They talk about all the other things that they want to do that do not even give us a kind of a room to discuss. I think we need to turn this. These are all education. And if we don't do this right, then we will never be able to solve it. And I would want to confess that my generation, I don't know, Anwar will agree with me, our generation needs to do and walk the talk. You always talk about, the younger generations want to do this, but the younger generations, the old generations are not doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah, and these are the politicians again. The older generation that are not exhibiting what they're supposed to do to show the role model the young generation should be doing. So I think these are all issues that I think we need to talk about, that I think we need to reinvent education, as it were. And I hope this kuliah will do it. Yeah, the whole paradigm needs to be changed. We need to look back at what used to happen and bring it back. And that's why the word sejahtera becomes important. The word sejahtera has been there more than 1,000 years. The kampung used to live in a balanced way. We respect the elderly. The kampung is organized in such a way, the whole kampung is balanced, with a surau in the center and everything's rotated around it, just like in Mecca, You have the Kaaba and everything rotates around it. But now look at the kampung. The kampung is topsy-turvy. The kampung do not have that resemblance of sejahtera anymore. And you don't expect people to be sejahtera when the kampung is not sejahtera. When the whole infrastructure is not sejahtera. When everything else is topsy-turvy, you cannot live in an environment to be balanced and everything else is topsy-turvy. You need to fix the environment first. Yeah? And this is why Anwar's work on the Think City. I would like to talk to Anwar, why don't you talk about the Think Village? Yeah? We also need to think about the village. The village is the one that has been, eroded almost every day. And I know Penang will be suffering a lot of those. And we know how then to save these villages. Because within the villages are the values. You lose the village, not so much the village, but you lose the values at the same time. Yeah? We were told to go to the industry, fine, but tell them to go to the villages, they do not know how to behave. Because the etiquette in the villages are so different from the etiquette in the environment outside in the thing. So I don't want to do, but I just want to show you one slide that I want to share. Where do we move now? When I talk about how to entangle, is basically to change a narrative. The narrative from the world that we want, yeah. Education needs to be sustainable education, which is Sejahtera education, if you want to use that word. All right. And that talks about the sustainable development goal, which Professor Sandler has talked about. Right. But what we are landed in now, we are not talking about the world we want. We are talking about the weird world that we don't want. And that's where I think we are in today. What is this weird world? I will just give you this definition of the word weird. All right. My sense is the word weird means we are living in a wasteful world and with a wasteful lifestyle. That's W. E, we are also economic centric. Everything that we talk about is all about economics. The balance between social life, the balance between ecology, has been talked by the two keynote speakers, are not there. Yeah? Even when we want to offer courses, we will ask, has it done market survey? Or the market say no, then don't offer. You know, although the course has a lot of value, we don't care because the market is the one that tells us what to do. So economic centric and also industry driven. Yeah, we are promised that we need to produce people who are marketable. But look, when COVID comes in, the industry is the first one to close down. The industry will tell us, we don't need your graduate, we have no job to give you. The industry becomes undependable or not dependable, you know. But we have left the community which is more dependable, we have left them. We have not even looked at them. Now we need to go back to them because they are the one that's growing things. You know, they are the ones that producing things now. The industry is no longer functional. We need to depend on them. But we have no systematic relationship with them because we think they are no good. Yeah, especially the orang asli, we think they're uncivilized. We go to them, we find there's a lot more value that they teach us compared to the people in the corporate sector and the corporate world, right? And we become so reputational obsessed, ranking any, which has no meaning in terms of life. You've got number one, University of Malaya, top 10, so what? Yeah, you are what do you call you publish in the first tier journal, so what? How many people read your journal? Yeah, why don't you print in the newspaper where thousands of people will read them? You become so reputational obsessed. Inilah jam ni. Yeah, you need 6 jam so that become reputation. Your reputation is good. No jam, no reputation. These are the kind of mentality I think we need to deconstruct. And finally, it becomes dehumanizing. We are no longer producing human beings. We are producing robots. We are producing people who actually work for the market, paid a salary almost in a slavish way. All right? And then we still talk about Black Lives Matters. In the most democratic countries, we still talk about Black Lives Matters. This is education today. So I want to propose that we move into an education, what we call the wiser education. Yeah, that is wholesome. We are not only talking about science and arts, we are talking about our revealed knowledge, reason, altogether holistic knowledge. Not only the dominant knowledge of the West, our indigenous knowledge, we need to pay attention to it. Look at the Japanese. The Japanese are good at this. Yeah, they talk about everything Japanese, they don't even translate it. Kaizen is Kaizen, not continuous improvement. We just learned another word today, Sanpo Yoshi, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, trust-based management. We talk about Moritainai. We talk about Satoyama. These are the words that the Japanese have got because within those words are the values that's embedded. The moment you translate, then the values are gone. And it's what I want to do with Sejahtera. Nobody should translate Sejahtera because Sejahtera, once you translate, it has no meaning. The interrelationship between those values are gone. So we want to talk about inclusive. We want to talk about being sustainable. We want to talk about be equitable. We want to talk about being recyclable, the circular economy that you talk about, not just growth economy, because we understand the rule of law is anything goes up must come down. The only thing that grows and grows and grows is the cancer cells. And what happened to cancer cell? It kills everything around it. And these are the lessons from nature that we need to take. And this is what I hope the Kuliah will pay attention to. And UNESCO now is talking about a different way of things. Yeah, they're talking about the futures of education, and from learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, learning to live together. They've put another one, learning to become wiser. And the wiser to me is that wholesome, inclusive, sustainable, equitable, and also cyclable, meaning to say that we can move into a lifestyle that is dependable. Yeah, and that lifestyle, inshallah, is sejahtera. I have no time to explain sejahtera. Maybe we can have other forum to talk about it. But I think the fundamental to me is everything must shift. If you still want to work with the old paradigm, I think you're going to already admit defeat, that you will one day be vanquished because of the things around us are no longer the same. Right? So with that note, I want to thank all of you, particularly the keynote speaker, opening our eyes, opening our mind, and also make us more courageous. If you look at Anwar, I know him since I was a student. He was one of my mentors, changed my mind altogether. You know, you must have this courage to change. What I see in university, everybody has no courage to change. Yeah, we like to fit in so that we become, part of the furniture, but nothing else changed. This university has existed for 37 years. We're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary 3 years from now. I hope by then we will become a brand new university that talks about change in a very meaningful way. After all, this is what Islam is all about. Wants to make things better, make things new, and makes things, for everybody, not just for people. We talk about rahmatan lil alamin. That is what we want to serve. Yeah. So on that note, let me thank all of you. Let me thank the dean. Let me thank the Kuliah. Let me thank our speakers. These are all alumni of IUM. Yeah, I know why they are here, because they also want to contribute to the university. And last but not least, let me thank Anwar for agreeing to have this. If Anwar tak agree, I don't think this will happen. Yeah, thanks so much, Anwar. And also Professor Sendo. Not only we got you here, but we also find there is already a trail that we have lost. So one of my instructions is to get back to your university so that you can work together and learn from you also what you have talked about, the trust-based management and all the rest of it. We can compare notes and we can come at a better point of how to move forward, inshallah, as an education institution that has a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to the people around us. In fact, the whole world that we are revolving in. So thank you very much. Let's make dua that inshallah this is the first round table. There are many more round table, Hassan. Yeah, and they're rounder than before. I hope we can move faster because it's round. The square table is susah nak keluar. Yeah. So thank you, Jais. I poisoned your mind 15 years, but how many years ago? Yeah. So I'm going to poison more minds. Yeah. So that we can move together, because we have no more time. We have no more time. Time is short and things are pressing. More people are dying. More people are suffering. If you can save their life today, inshallah, we are doing the gift that Pening Hidayah is talking about. So wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, for sharing your insights with us. Moving on, I would like to now invite our respected rector, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Aziz, accompanied by Professor Dr. Hasanuddin Abdul Aziz, to present a token of appreciation to our panelists.
We will be giving away some small memento. We will send one to Professor Sendo over the mail. And also Anwar, I can take it to Penang now that we can move. Anwar, I miss my kway teow. I'm going to Penang.
First up, we would like to invite Professor Datuk Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob. followed by Tuan Hajijais bin Abdul, and last but not least, Brother Jafitri bin Johar. Thank you, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Aziz and Professor Dr. Hasanuddin Abdul Aziz. We have now come to the end of the event. Thus, I would like to once again express my deepest gratitude to all our guest speakers, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Aziz, Rector of IIUM, Professor Dr. Sendu Ayoko, Vice President of Takushoku University, Datuk Dr. Anwar Fazal, President of Consumer Association of Penang, Professor Datuk Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob, the Independent Non-Executive Director of Amanah Raya Berhad, Tuan Hajijais bin Abdul, President of Malaysia Corruption Watch, Brother Jafitri bin Johar, President of Majlis Belia Malaysia, for their outstanding and informative inputs for today's roundtable discussion. I am sure we have all benefited a lot from the speeches given. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to all parties who generously helped us making this event come together to become a success. We could not have done it without you. Last but not least, I would like to thank all our audience for sparing your time and joining us for today's discussion. We will conclude our session today with Tasbih Kifara and Suratul As. That marks the end of our roundtable discussion on consumerism in post-pandemic era. I would like to sincerely apologize for all my shortcomings